What's going on, everybody? It's your boy PTK Blam back in the building with another episode of the Shop Podcast. How are you beautiful people doing in the chat today? We got the Shop Podcast 307 live. Got a couple awesome guests. We got family in the house. We already got family in the chat. Shout out to everybody watching live, man. Appreciate the continued support. You guys are super awesome. Thank you so much, man. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time. This week has been crazy, chat. As you guys know, we're going to get into all of that. I have not gotten a chance to talk about any of this stuff. I've just been watching all of these gentlemen here on the panel talk about it on their various different shows. But shout out to everybody in chat, man. You guys are amazing. Once again, retweet that link, share it out, let everybody know we live here at the Shop Podcast, man. But let's go ahead and get started with our awesome guests. We're going to start with some of the family here, man. We got some cousins in the house today, man. Got some FSP love, got some living split screen love. We're going to start with you, Steel. What's up, Steel? How you doing today, brother?
Hey, what's going on, fam? Like, you got the chat's gonna start getting lit up in here. PTK, then they hit the celebrity status here as of late. I guess people finally picked up on what you was putting down over here on a Saturday night. But yeah, man, it's I am him, the one and only Steel Rain. It's great to be back here with you guys, rocking and rolling, and much appreciated for you to ask me to be on the night, PTK. And me personally, it's just been a lot of that Diablo here lately, while also trying to fit in some Neo 2 when I can, right? That's my new addiction also. But yeah, man, that's pretty much been me for most of the week, other than having an action-packed show this morning with one of your fellow panel members, matter of fact. So I think we're going to have a fire time tonight. I'm looking forward to it, and thanks for everybody coming through.
Man, awesome. Shout out to you still for coming through, man. It's always a good time. I love the energy, man. Me and Still been playing a lot of Diablo 4. The man been carrying me. Shout out to everybody here. Matter of fact, a lot of the people on the panel are higher level than me too. So I've been getting carried by a few people here. But shout out to everybody, man. Once again, go follow Still. Go show the love, the living split screen. Trying to hit that 1K goal. Let's go ahead and do that, man. We need to get that soon.
We working on it.
I know we working, but shout out to everybody in chat. Please do us a favor, go follow them. All that goodness every single Saturday morning. Living split screen, our own Pong Soul and Steel Rain here. So we're gonna throw this over to you, Mr. Mav, man. Mav is a man. Shout out to you, Mav. Talk about me being a rock star celebrity. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Nah, I'm just playing, Mav. I know you humble like that. I'm not gonna throw all of that on you, Mav. I know.
I'm the man.
I'm not. Soak that in. You got to be like Pong would have took all of that. Pong took all of that.
Pong's an egomaniac.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, there's Umbra and then there's me, right? That's how close it is in egos.
True.
Yeah,
that's true.
Pretty much the same.
Yeah, pretty much.
It could just be conflated. That's all.
Yeah.
Shout out to you, man, for coming on, bro. Thank you for coming on, man. How you been?
Doing good, man. It's Saturday. Saturday. Love the weekend. It's time to have some fun, play some more games. We got this crazy FTC stuff that's been going on the last couple of days. We got more to look forward to as well. So we got a lot to talk about. This is an amazing panel. You know, this is like I was saying in the pre-show, this is like a family reunion family get together here tonight. So I'm really excited for this show, and we're gonna have a blast.
I'm pumped, man, and I love you too, man. Family, cousin of the show, man. Shout out to all the FSP love too. I know I see a few of y'all. I see Jasper down in the chat. So shout out to the FSP family out there. You guys do me a favor. Go follow them as well too, man. Phenomenal show. Multiple different shows throughout the week. Go follow Mav. Shout out to everybody at FSP. Let's go ahead and throw this over to my two right-hand man, the men that make me look good every single week to make this podcast what it is. We're going to start with you, Mr. Pong Soul, the most humble guy I've ever met in my entire life. Not even close.
Wow. Well, yeah, I try to be. I don't come on here singing.
That's true.
I don't think I have a great voice because I don't. I do try to stay low key. Listen, what a great week it has been. Gamers Christmas just rolled right into, the FTC frauds showing up and showing everybody exactly what we thought. We are who we thought they were, right? That's exactly what happened this week. What a time to be talking about this gaming industry. And of course, having family over for dinner on the Shop Podcast is always special. We got the one, the only, the brothers, Steel And of course, Mav, it's going to be a fantastic show. It has been nothing but Diablo for me during gaming
Same.
time.
Same,
Man,
that's it.
can't stop. Can't stop. And yeah, shout out to Steele and shout out to Jasper for carrying me through a lot. Steele and I have actually been playing a ton together, which has been crazy. But man, what a great game. It continues to give and give and give. And PTK, I'm kind of sick and tired of seeing you post about uniques, brother. I really am.
What?
Yeah.
That's a burner account. That's an alt account. That's not. You gotta,
That's an alt account.
Yeah, you gotta check the font. The font's different.
But I will say, over the past 2 days, I did pick up both unique bows, by the way. So I was finally feeling okay. All right. So I was a little irked there, PTK, for a while. That's all I'm gonna say, because my rogue was feeling a little less than yours for a change. But what a great night. We got a lot to dive into. The ABK, man, it's almost done. They're getting crushed. Let's go. Let's talk about it.
Let's get into it, man. We're gonna have a good night, man. The energy's here. Tell your friends about the Shop Podcast. We do this every single Saturday evening. You want to be a part of this, man? Go follow us, subscribe. You want to be a member? Do that too. You get some cool stuff you can put in chat, some emojis, all that cool stuff, man. And last but not least, Mr. Fuzzy Belvedere, how you been, brother? I know what you've been playing, because we all been playing the same damn thing.
Yeah, I've been doing great, but still a little bit behind you guys as far as when it comes to level cap, or not level cap, but like the gear score or whatever right now. I'm only at 67, taking my time going through a few things on respecing the attributes and whatnot, but having fun. Still playing a couple other games, snuck in a little bit of Forza Horizon 5 to get some of the cars for the week, and Division, I played about maybe a half hour worth to get a couple of things for like their legacy thing that they have for like the weekly, where you do the speed runs on some of the maps and stuff. But man,
you didn't try the descent mode yet, Fuzzy?
No, I haven't tried the descent mode. I'm gonna have to, figure out where I'm gonna space the time to try it out, and then go right back to Diablo to catch back up to you guys. But I definitely want to give that a try, because the whole roguelike setup of it is kind of interesting.
It's fun.
But man, Diablo's been taking up a lot of my gaming time. But the FTC and this whole court battle, so much interesting stuff coming out, like all the stuff that we kind of expected behind the scenes. But man, some exclusive reveals and whatnot.
World premiere at the courthouse.
That was the extended show.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch and see a lot of the threads and stuff like that on Twitter. But man, we got a lot to get into, so let's do this.
Man, let's get into it. And you guys know me, the host here, PTK Blame, here at the Shop Podcast, man. Let's dive into it, man. We had a phenomenal poll of the week. Shout out to the over 800 people who voted on the poll of the week. We actually going to forego that only because this Xbox FTC stuff is so juicy. I got to get into it. I have not gotten a chance to talk about it, and I am chomping at the bits. But shout out to the over 800 people who voted. The poll of the week was, is Starfield the most ambitious game ever made? And it was an overwhelming yes, Pong. That's the people spoke, Pong. The people agreed with you, right? Non-biased poll, by the way. Anybody can vote. So I just want to make sure the people, like 85%, said yes, it is, Pong.
A lot of right people, and for the other 15%, what the hell are you thinking about?
Shout out to everybody who voted, man. But that Pong tend to align with Pong this week. So shout out to you, Pong, for being on top of that, man, and being right once again. But man, we're gonna get into this Xbox FTC stuff, chat. I gotta get into this stuff, man. So it's so much to talk about, so much to go through. One word I would describe is just theatrics, right? That's kind of where I'm at this week with everything going on. We knew this would be a big deal, but we did not know it would turn into a Netflix special. We didn't know we would get the fireworks, all the juicy details, things being said that probably shouldn't have been said, documents being seen that probably shouldn't have been shown, all kind of cool stuff.
You mean they got some emails, PTK?
Man, they got DMs. I'm surprised they ain't pulling up the TikToks.
I would like to see Phil Spencer's TikTok. That would be great.
Oh man, it's gonna be
A lot
great.
of vampire survivors.
Oh yeah, a whole bunch of that. But we're gonna start with our guest here, man. And I just we'll just start just kind of where you at with everything. We're what, day two? Day two now at this point is wrapped up. So we'll start with you on this one, Mav. I know you talked about this. Shout out to the FSP fam in chat, man. All love to you guys. But just where you at after day two, Mav, just kind of overall view.
I wonder what attraction's going to be next. Is it going to be the juggling act, or is it going to be the high wire, or the trapeze?
Well, we already got the clowns, right?
Yeah, this is a circus among circuses.
showed up early.
We just missed some elephants. That's all.
Sometimes you like to watch like stupid law stuff on TV, and like I was into the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial and all that kind of stuff, and you just watch these lawyers and just laugh sometimes. And I honestly gotta say, I haven't seen such a bad job ever by a team of lawyers ever, because this has been one of those times where you've had all this time. I mean, I don't even remember when it was originally turned into the FTC and they started looking at this stuff to learn about the industry, to learn about gaming, to learn about everything involved with this. And they go up and ask these Microsoft executives yes or no questions that backfire on them. What is that? Now I'm happy for it because it proves they have no case, but it's just laughable. It's ridiculous. It shows that this whole thing has been a complete waste of time, waste of taxpayer dollars, a waste of everything, man. And it's like I'm glad this is aired like on Zoom and whatever, so people can hear it, or some people can watch or whatever. But we're finally seeing behind the curtain of everything we've been talking about now for over a year, right?
Yeah.
We're finally getting a glimpse about how bad their case is, about how much they're taking Sony's side with this thing, how much they're trying to protect Sony with ridiculous questions, ridiculous points that have no merit whatsoever. And it's really interesting to see that actually unfold now, actually in this form, because it makes them look absolutely ridiculous. It's making Microsoft look like this should have never been a problem in the first place. And I can't wait to see what else happens, dude, because there's going to be more questions fired at Satya coming up. And like if the past couple days are any kind of indication on what we're going to see, he's going to absolutely annihilate them. Just like Sarah Bond did, just like Phil Spencer did. And I think this is probably going to be an easy decision for the judge. I'm glad we're getting to see this. However, I wish we got the Jim Ryan video. I would love to see the cross-examination on that. But dude, it's been entertaining. I really like watching this stuff and listening in and following all the news about it, because this is kind of a moment in history with gaming we haven't really seen before. And I don't know when the next time we're going to, because this is the case that's going to set the stage and precedent for other moves to come, no matter what company is involved trying to acquire what. Like this is setting the table, They
call it a landmark case, right? Don't they call those like landmark cases, where you can go back and look and say, okay, this is what set the precedence, right?
Yeah, so if Amazon wants to buy a big publisher, if Google does, or Sony ends up making a move on a big player, this a lot of the decisions that are made here are based on like what's forced. What do they make these companies do to be able to get through with this acquisition, like the concessions or the remedies or the way that they're allowing it based on distribution and all those kind of things, and pricing and all that kind of stuff is setting the table for what these other companies, all these other big companies are watching this, be like, what are the rules going to be for us if we make this kind of move?
Well, one of the rules is the government's going to negotiate contracts on the stand. So.
Yeah, that's apparently so. Apparently so. Well, we're not gonna offer any concessions or remedies, but what we're gonna do is have our lawyer that just got out of law school. He's fresh. He's brand new, but he's gonna get up there and he's gonna try and get contracts for the dominant market position leader in the industry because apparently they didn't want to sign it themselves. So we're gonna have our lawyer pitch it to Phil on the stand and see what he says.
Crazy.
It's a great strategy. Great strategy.
Theatrics,
Yeah.
man.
Gotcha.
It's crazy.
Gotcha question after gotcha question that came back to get them.
And I want to ask
Horrible.
you something, Mav, that you brought up, right? I want to highlight this real quick and kind of throw it back to you. You brought up the fact that the Sony angle is kind of strange, right? And I know people have been talking about this all week, Mav, about, well, you know, Xbox is an American company. Well, Microsoft, better yet, is an American company. Sony is a Japanese company. Why is it seem to be this weird play, right? Like, where is that angle coming from? Like, what's your like take on that? Like, why are they so stringent? Like, why is Sony, you know, given this leeway? You know, why are they giving so much influence in this decision, right?
It's for me, it's not so much about where the company headquarters are located. It's about the
Yeah.
position they have in the market, right?
Yeah.
Like for PlayStation to have such a dominant lead in the space that they're arguing against, because we got to remember, they're not arguing against subscriptions really too much. They're not arguing against any of these other things. They're really focusing on consoles for the most part. They're looking at some things with like Game Pass subscriptions versus PlayStation and stuff. And I remember hearing them talk to Sarah Bond, like, well, you see here, PlayStation only, you said they only had 3 million subscribers and then Game Pass has 30 million. Well, like we saw recently that, and this was touted by PlayStation, that they've already gotten up to 17 million, right?
Yes,
In a short time span, right? So they keep having these gotcha moments, almost like in defense of Sony now, and which is the weird thing, and all it tells us is that's the only things they've had to grasp at for an excuse to try and block this deal. Because we talked about this a long time ago. They were always going to try and block the deal.
Yes.
They've said so.
They said
right?
it, yeah.
They said so, like, hey, big
Right out
tech
the
deals,
gate.
we're going to try and block. Right.
Yeah. Yep.
So they have to try and grasp onto something. The only people that tried to give them any ammunition was Sony. So that's why their case looks like a Sony pony lawyer shit show. You know, they're just like, hi, I'm Mr. PlayStation fan, and I would like to block your deal. I'm going to ask you ridiculous questions. Like, that's what it comes across as. And it's really weird to see that because there's no focus on the consumer side, right? All the focus is on like damaging PlayStation's business model and damaging PlayStation's business. And they even tried to do this moment with Matt Booty's email that they want to close you down, PlayStation.
The judge already threw that out beforehand anyway, so that wasn't even in play.
All these things where meanwhile you have the Jim Ryan email saying that they're actually not worried at all really about their future. So it's just an excuse for them to use, and unfortunately it rang hollow from the get-go. We said this a long time ago when they went to phase 2 and they put so much emphasis on Call of Duty coming to PlayStation. That was a checkmate for Microsoft, in my opinion, right? They could have went so many different directions and really studied the industry and trying to figure out something else that would have maybe had a little bit more merit. But that aspect alone is no value. That's why all the other regulators, including the CMA, dismissed that aspect. And to see this unfold with so much at the FTC hearing about PlayStation is kind of cringy, to be honest with you. It's like it's really cringy, and it shows how educated about the industry the FTC is, about how little homework they actually did, about how much they actually cared about trying to do right by this industry. It just shows it was just all an agenda-focused excuse all along.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's obvious. It's painfully obvious watching it in real time, right? Like, we always speculate about this. We do these shows every week. We talk about this stuff, but we never really get like factual evidence. We're watching this in real time, seeing these people who have no idea what they're talking about, asking questions about an industry they have no idea like where to even begin, you know what I mean? And it's cringe. And to see, and what irritates me the most, I know we got to get to Still here, but what irritates me the most, Mav, is this idea that it feels like Xbox just needs to be in a particular lane. Like Xbox can't grow. Like, you guys kind of stay where you're at. We're good with you guys there. There's this, that's the overlying thing that bothers me the most, is that it's just this idea that, like, okay, you guys can't really grow. Like, I understand you guys can't do it the way Sony does it, but like this Game Pass stuff, like no, you guys can't do that. Like it just feels limiting. Like all these limiting things that they're trying to do, and it's annoying at this point. Like they're a different company. They do things different ways. You know what I mean? And to get to a same goal. So I think that's the most irritating thing about this whole thing with me is just this idea that there's this whole like feeling of they want to limit Xbox and what they're able to do in their influence.
Yeah, and it's just an excuse from the FTC, and honestly, I don't think the FTC actually really even cares, about the market or about the consumer at all in this situation. They just want to block big tech, and that's all they have to argue with is Sony's argument. So this comes across as shallow and ignorant, and it's making them look bad. I honestly, after this case, with being as public and high profile as this is, with everything that's coming out, I wouldn't be surprised if after this is done, if this is one of the big moments that causes a major shakeup there.
Well, I mean, Lena Khan was already under investigation. They were already kind of looking at her, so I wouldn't be surprised either, man. Seeing where this goes, it's embarrassing for the FTC. It really is. It really. I mean, if there's anybody in that building that actually cares about their reputation, they need to come out and say something. We need
what they've been trying to do is gain power by changing the laws, by doing these ridiculous cases, but looking so ridiculous to the public, Adam, maybe it's actually going to end up removing power from them. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's throw this over to you, Steele, man. Once again, we've been cooking up about this all week. We on day 2, got some more information, emails, some cool stuff. But just where you at, just kind of with all the overlying information, that we've gotten so far.
Oh man, this entire situation has just been kind of a rigmarole kind of thing. It's kind of just gone in circles on his head. I feel like I'm watching the movie Inception all over again. I'm just waiting to see if that dwindle is going to end up falling. Like at the end of the movie, I'm still like I felt like it was tilting a little bit, but I don't know. Look, man, from the very beginning, I have personally said, and I've stuck out on this hill, that I don't. With my own educated consumer perspective, I don't get the arguments that are being made in favor of the competitor, which is Sony in this matter. I don't get it. If you say like the end all to be all for what they've come down to is that it's the cloud that's an issue for them, which at this point has also been proven, even without anybody doing research, that it's not a market currently. If anything, it's just an additional avenue to pull in an audience that otherwise wouldn't have known or being welcomed to it. So for me, this entire situation is kind of just continuing to turn on its head. And I don't have necessarily a lot to add on to it completely, because at the end of the day, we all knew that this was just a bunch of smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
It was something for the FTC to use to make an example of somebody. But lo and behold, the somebody that they're trying to make an example of, not only it has enough belief in what they're doing to fight you for it, but also knows that you don't have any grounds to stand on. And just because we have the money as Microsoft, just because Microsoft has the money to go back and forth with you, I still think it puts the FTC and other governing bodies in a much stranger position, especially with everything that is going on within the European governing bodies. Like there's other things that you should probably be worrying about. Like I get the amount of money that has been put forth. Again, you should always question when any big company invests a lot of money into any avenue, right? But when it comes down to it and you look at the facts and you see that it's an avenue that not only is an ever-growing business, has probably at least 20 years of growth, and then you see the way that the different pieces of the puzzle have been moving since they've been in the gaming industry, i.e. your Nintendos, i.e. your PlayStations. They both have been very cutthroat since the very beginning. Yeah. And the fact that PlayStation has even got as far as they have has only been because of their own brand power. If it was anybody else, I don't think that these arguments that they would have brought to the table would have even got remotely as close as they have. And I think, and I congratulate Sony, because they did exactly what they needed to do. It doesn't cost them any money for real to argue in court. They're not fighting for nothing. At the end of the day, they're still gonna have to sit down and cut a deal with Microsoft if the deal goes through. So they're going to prevent themselves from saying too much, and they're also going to say a little bit extra at the low end just to throw you off or to make you feel some type of way about the situation, which we all have. Oh, Jim Ryan don't know what he's talking about. You don't know what he's doing. But lo and behold, people want Jim Ryan to kind of get moved off for somebody to replace him. You want Sean Layden back, or you want whoever to step in that seat. But this man has made PlayStation more money than anybody else did previously. He's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And with that in mind, it's just, again, I congratulate Sony for everything that they were able to do, because exactly what, like, some of the things that we predicted, it's funny that it was allowed to happen the way that it has. And you brought up the point about it being an American-based company with Microsoft. Yeah. And no, it's not necessarily about who's stationed where and where you've got, but there is a, let's say, not an ethical thing, but it's more so like a traditional thing that Sony has always had that is carried with them. And because of that, that's why they've continued to try to throw around, as we've also heard today, recently, not today, but we also have heard of recent that they've been throwing around their brand power for Lord knows how long. And when it comes down to like a deal with Call of Duty, when you have Activision able to tell Microsoft, we don't need you, and that is just not saying that they would have or whatever, they wouldn't have worked something out, we don't know. But for a huge IP that is basically has the number one selling game across any device, pretty much, says, hey, Xbox, we don't need you. Does that not put in perspective where Xbox is in the market? Where they have been? And the only other thing that I would add on to this conversation is, if people are still confused, and again, you don't have to take my words for the gospel, you don't have to listen to anything that I say, but there's one thing that I would recommend, and is please check out the Xbox On documentary. If you don't understand the perspective that, and again, you want to say Microsoft, Xbox has no reason for A, B, C, D. We also just found out recently that Xbox is still considered as it's a part of Microsoft, not their main, really. So when you go back and watch the Xbox On documentary also, it gives you a different piece of that puzzle that I think a lot of people are missing when they say, oh man, well, Xbox did so great with the 360 generation. And I made a point this morning was, and the only reason they were able to do that is because of the ties they had with Sega and Peter Moore being able to come over into Xbox and really run the ship. Because at that time, who else was going to do it? Nobody. Literally, there was nobody who had that vision to drive the 360 the way to the success that it had. You saw what happened with the Xbox One. You saw what happened with the OG Xbox. They struggled to even get Halo on that platform to have something that they can speak for, right? They were in that same documentary talk about the hard dealings that they had, talking to different publishers and trying to get them to make something for their system. Take this into consideration also. Back then, they were also creating software based on the different devices or the different piece of hardware that were out there console-wise. Now they're both talking on the same language, and Microsoft is still getting the back end in a lot of these situations, saying, we don't need to mess with you. We got PlayStation got a huge fan base. We'll just pitch it to them and we'll go from there. Like it's just perspective with a lot of this.
Yeah.
It's also funny to me that there's still a probability that this case may still fail, like that there's something may happen where it still doesn't go Microsoft's way for whatever reason, whether it be a time limit,
That's
whether it be
irritating,
whatever,
bro.
right? Where they're like, they have to say, you know what, we tried, they took it as far as they could, and they got to break off that $3 billion. So it's like, that's even more irritating to me, because it's like, well, what is the point in the entire situation that you're going through right now? Why go to court for this? Why? Because at the end of the day, if you're doing it to protect consumers, that's not what you're doing it for. If you're doing it to protect Sony, then that's the exact reason that you're doing it for. Because if Xbox fails to get this, Sony wins at the end of the day.
Man, that's crazy. That's crazy, man. That's crazy. So let me get this. Let me get shout out to the $5 super chat from Drawn TJ. Let me get this real quick. I see you, TJ. Shout out to you. He said, "Hey, what's up, everyone? Sony and FTC are screwed. The deal will go through. Everyone, please hit the like for my friend PTK Blade. Shout out to you, TJ. Appreciate the $5 super chat. You was on the money still, and I can't wait to throw this. I'm throwing an alley oop to Pong right now. Pong, you got a 360 windmill, this bad boy for sure, man. But no, I just because. Like I said before, man, and you brought up a lot of cool points. You talk about the history of Xbox and just how difficult it's been along the way. Every generation presents its own issues, right? Some of them are self-inflicted wounds. Some of them are growing pains, right? The Xbox One generation, that was self-inflicted. That was we did some dumb stuff, and we didn't mean to do that, but it happened, and we got to deal with it. Some of the other stuff was just because they're the new kid on the block, right? They've always been treated like that. In the boardrooms, when they do these deals, everybody's like, "Oh, that's just the Microsoft guy sitting over in the corner. You guys go have a seat. We'll take a meeting with you guys later." Type attitude, right? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of crazy to see that play out in an American court, though. You know what I mean? Like where the only competition is a Japanese company, and once again, I'm not trying to the CMA, but whatever, right? Like we don't even count those dudes. They're on their own island right now. They're over there playing Survivor, trying to figure out what they're gonna do next. So, but let me throw this over to Pong, man. Pong, a lot of interesting takes, a lot of new stuff. We got a few more days of this, man, before we get some type of decision. But with all of the theatrics, everything that Mav brought up, everything that Steele brought up, where are you at, man, at this point?
Yeah. Wow. There's been a lot said already, and we've talked about this a lot already this week too. First of all, shout out to Idle Sloth. Real quick, breaking news, kind of slightly. Did Xbox just reveal the roadmap to us? Because interestingly enough, right now available for pre-download is Starfield, Forza Motorsport, Avowed, and Clockwork Revolution.
Yeah.
Really?
Maybe Clockwork Revolution is late next year.
Mid next year.
Yeah, or maybe they're thinking Hellblade late next year for the holiday, right?
Oh, because that's not on that list, right?
That's not on that list, right? So very interesting stuff going on.
So they came available for pre-download?
Yeah, pre-download. I just pre-downloaded
if it was a 2025 game, you know what
right,
I mean? So,
right, exactly. Kind of crazy. I don't know if it's a mistake or not. And the Starfield, you can actually download the art book and soundtrack right now.
Oh, wow.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so, nice. So everybody go to your Xbox app. That's where I did it from, and type in Starfield, and you can actually download the art book and
you have to get
soundtrack.
the premium edition.
I don't know, but why it's available though? Why it's showing up for a download? It's kind of crazy. I've never seen that on an art book soundtrack before. So just interesting stuff. I was just tooling through Twitter, right? Yeah. So we're gonna have fun.
Idle, by the way, cool dude.
Yeah,
man. Awesome.
Yeah. So let's get back to ABK here. We have talked so much about this deal, and for them coming in this week. Again, you don't have to listen to us talking heads. You don't have to, go to shows to hear about this stuff. If you didn't believe anything, that nobody knew anything coming into this, go back and look at the experts. And it was almost universal that they all said that the FTC had no case. And we all picked up on that. And all of us that were actually interested in this whole acquisition and what it meant for the gaming industry and have been fascinated by it, we deep dived all of these experts and what they were saying. People that are paid big money to do this stuff all agreed, for the most part, that the FTC, they had no idea what they were doing here. And then on top of that, you throw in the fact that every other regulatory body around the world, even the CMA, who is attempting to block it, threw out the console side of this narrative, that there was a problem, that this deal represented a threat to the console portion of the industry. The FTC kept that in here. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, there is nothing here that says that, when you look at the actual numbers, and we've seen so much of the numbers now, that this was going to be any type of problem for PlayStation, Nintendo, or anybody else out there in the console space. So You know, it's funny that they did this, that they kept that in there, and they found, and I've said this before, that they found in Sony a useful idiot to find, try it, right? They did. They really did. To try to find, and Sony was a willing, useful idiot too, by the way, right? Jim obviously proved that time and time again throughout this process. But they did that because they were trying to find anything to latch onto. And Mav's opening remarks fall in line with mine. Again, I don't know how you could listen or even read some of the breakdowns of what happened this week with witnesses up on the stand being examined and cross-examined, and not see that the FTC simply was trying to throw everything at the wall and find out what they could get to stick. And literally nothing stuck. There was a couple times with Pete Hines and one time with Phil that they dug in a little bit on certain areas, but they got no traction otherwise. There was zero there, and they were so unprepared to even, it's crazy. It's not crazy because it's a government agency, so we know how inept the government can be. But it's crazy to me that they put all their eggs in this basket, that they're going to go up against Microsoft, one of the biggest companies in the entire world, with $1 million attorneys showing up through the door. And you guys can't do 1 ounce of homework. You guys can't dig in and understand any part of this industry. We already knew that the regulatory bodies and the governments really didn't have any idea how this worked here. But the fact that they had all this time to prepare for this case, that we assume from day one they were ready to go this far and take it all this way into the federal courts against Microsoft, and yet they still couldn't read some of the basics of this industry and have kind of a baseline understanding is unbelievable to me. It really is. I was shocked and rolled my eyes so many times when I was reading or listening the bits that I did get to listen to at work. What was happening here and the questions they were asking, and the fact that they, again, I understand that the way they're trying to attack this deal, they do have to latch on to even the most ridiculous parts of the Sony argument because that's a part of their case. But man, oh man, did it show how worthless all of that was. The taxpayer dollars, man, the taxpayer dollars, the time involved here to go to these lengths to continue to parrot narratives that have been shot down across the entire globe. You bring that into federal court, and now you have a judge who has been already briefed on all of this because she just handled the gamers lawsuit and threw that out. So she already knows what you're trying to do. She's heard some of these same arguments, and you're still going to walk into court with your chest out, acting like you got something. I mean, again, the way that the attorney, I forget the gentleman's name from the FTC, who was questioning Phil, the way that he tried to go after Phil, like he was on the stand with murder charges or something. Like he got all aggressive. I was like, what? What are we doing here? This is not how you impress a judge who already understands what is happening here. And sure enough, by the end of it, what happened? She shut him down and dismissed Phil off the witness stand and said, we've had enough of this. You can go ahead and step down, Mr. Spencer. Like, I am flabbergasted. I'm truly flabbergasted at what we've witnessed this week, but it falls in line with everything that we were saying for this entire process, that if it ever got to this point, Microsoft's attorneys are going to be licking their chops once it got to federal court. That's why Microsoft up front put out the threat that we're going to close over the top of the FTC, because they wanted this to happen, because they knew that the laws that are written in black and white about mergers and acquisitions, right, about monopolies, were all in their favor when it came to the federal courts. And at least in the United States, it's not about feelings to these judges when you get to the federal court level and you're talking about a business transaction. They are going to look at the facts. They are not going to try to change the laws. Yes, we do have some judges out there who try to do that from time to time, but for the most part, judges are not going to try to change laws that need to go through a legislative process. They understand that that's not how this country works, folks. So here we are right now with a judge that is slapping down everything. We have a prepared Microsoft Xbox team who have obviously been well coached and already knew coming in what the talking points were going to be and what the FTC was going to try to swing at. And so they're just sitting back, cool, calm, and collected, and just running through and educating on the spot the FTC on exactly how this actually works. And the FTC looks like the clowns that they are.
It sounded like I was watching an episode of Reading Rainbow.
Yeah.
Like
yes.
I was watching an episode of like someone talking to a child. Those questions were ridiculous. Some of those questions, are you serious? Did you look? They handed you this case right before you walked in the door. You skimmed it, looked at it, and sat down and said, well, I hope I can figure this out. Like, it just feels like this is the most unprepared, backwards, illogical case I've ever seen. Like, especially with a case that this has, like the precedents that this case is going to set, you think they would have done their homework, been a bit more thorough, been a bit more knowledgeable, actually went and got some experts, talked to some people that knew what they're talking about. They did none of that, bro.
It feels like they're just going through the motions because Lena pushed them here, which is almost the case, right? Lena, the agenda, the ideologue that Lena is, it feels like these attorneys know, even as much as they try to puff their chest out, that they have nothing. And they just showed up and are just trying anything to try to put some semblance of a case against Microsoft here together on the spot instead of having one in advance, because they said in their opening arguments that what we're going to hear here in this trial, in this preliminary injunction trial, was just the tip of the iceberg. They acted like they had all these smoking guns laying around, and they acted like they had the blood results and it matched, and they were just walking in there and this was a slam dunk case. And the next thing you know, it's all just an illusion. They have nothing. They have zero. And if this preliminary injunction is supposed to be the be all end all, this could end the deal if she grants this preliminary injunction. And you're going to tell us that you're not bringing all of these smoking guns to court with you. You're just showing us the tip of the eye. Listen, you guys are frauds. You have nothing. There's nothing here. You're wasting everybody's time. You know it. And I can't wait until this is done. And I sure hope Congress has been paying attention a lot to what's been going on with the FTC. They were denied their extra funding already. They understand who Lena Khan is. I sure hope when this judge slaps down this preliminary injunction and Microsoft and Xbox are allowed to go forward with this acquisition or close over the top of the FTC, I sure hope they don't wait for the whole entire process to play out. I sure hope they haul Lena Khan back in front of them and have some serious questions again for her. And maybe this time actually try to get something done and maybe remove her or put the pressure on for her to step down, because time and time again she has proven this is not the position for her, because she's trying to do things. Yeah,
she's a personal crusade.
Right, she's trying to do things outside the bounds of law within this country, and that's not how we're supposed to operate. I know it does all the damn time. Don't get me wrong. I understand that. But everybody's watching. The world is watching this, and it's a freaking circus right now. It's stupid. So anyways, I'll end it there. I've spoken enough.
No, it's good. It's good. And I completely understand. I completely agree with you. And I kind of want to, before we get to Fuzz on this one, I kind of wanted to double back to you, Mav, because I want to highlight a couple points Pong made, right? This whole Lena Khan stuff, this whole FTC stuff and their positioning. You know what's crazy about this, Mav, and I want to get your opinion on this. They already knew they had a weak case. Like, this is not new evidence. So you mean to tell me, and Pong highlighted this, you showed up to court and said, we got it. We got you guys. We got it. We got the evidence. We got everything to win this case. And you have nothing? Who are you trying to fool? Like, so in saying that and kind of piggybacking off what Pong said about this, seemed to be like a crusade. And Microsoft just tends to be the scapegoat because they're the first company to attempt something like this. Like, where are you at on that point? Do you think that we need to possibly look at the FTC after this case is over with?
I think it makes the FTC seem incompetent and not able to do their job properly. If they this publicly show up so unprepared to ask questions that, I mean, this is what you never do as a lawyer. And I was talking about this last night a little bit. Like, you never want to go up to, as a lawyer, and ask a yes or no question that's going to come back to you. Right? Like, they've done this multiple times, and that alone shows how unprepared they were. I don't know whether to believe that they actually thought they had those gotchas, those attempts, that they actually believed what they were asking was going to be a win for them, or if the whole thing was just a charade and they hoped they would confuse Microsoft or something. I don't really know, but they went up there and asked questions like, all Xbox first party games are exclusive to Xbox, right? And the answer was no. And then that was supposed to be a gotcha moment for them, right? Because they're going up there trying to say, you make all your games exclusive that you produce, correct? And to try and make this case that Call of Duty is going to be. And then their answer was simply no. And the fact that Microsoft's been talking about Minecraft and these other games that are on other PlayStation for so long, and the lawyers show up so uneducated, so ignorant to the fact that there are other games that release on other platforms that Microsoft makes, is absolutely insanely ridiculous. And I can only guess that they actually believed that, because you would never want to ask that question unless you knew it was going to make your case. But instead, it made Microsoft's case. And they've done this time and time again. That's not the only time they've asked a question like that.
Yeah.
That's blew up in their face. And that shows a level of incompetency of the FTC, that they would actually take this to the point of trying to block this deal without any grounds to stand on, without knowing the basics of the industry that they're trying to regulate. They've had all of this time since Microsoft turned in this acquisition. Well, phase 1, all through phase 2, we've been talking about this stuff on these podcasts for how long now? And they don't know the basics of first party games. They don't know the basics of
the industry in general.
That Minecraft can be played on a PS5, even though there's no PS5 version. There's only PS4. I mean, their
you need a Windows key to play Xbox video games.
Like time and time again, like there's these questions that they felt like we're going to be like, oh, we got them with this one because they're going to answer this question, and oh my gosh, it's going to blow the judge's mind. And they go up there and they ask this question that they think they got like they got a winning ticket here, and they play it and they ask this question, and the answer comes back to them no. Like, oh.
And they have no comeback, Mav, right?
No,
that's the tell. That's the tell. If you're an attorney, like, you should have a comeback for either or response, right? You should have your next question lined up. That's the basics. I don't have to be an attorney. I already watched enough court cases. You always have that follow-up question, no matter what the response is. These guys from the FTC are flipping pages and like, okay, let's move on. What? Right. What?
But yeah, it's like, well, what else? How can I improve this situation now because I just shot myself in the foot? It's kind of like what these lawyers keep doing, right? It's pretty insane, like the unpreparedness. And I don't know, maybe this is what it takes to something this public and this big to draw more eyes and cause more questions, and cause a shakeup there. But you know what, it's tough to say. It really is, because they've been clear and stating what their agenda was. It's not like they lied about what they were going to try and do. Also, like Lena Khan pretty much said, we're going to try and take everything and block every major deal over a certain amount regardless, because we want to set an example and we want to get the laws changed. I mean, she pretty much said that. And it's like, well, that's what they're trying to do. They've done it. I think it's horrible that they are doing things that way, because you should always look at every deal for its own merits, right? Its benefits, its negatives, everything within a certain deal should be judged and weighed upon within itself. And to just take individual deals, especially one that really the only consumer effect is like potentially getting games and Game Pass, right? And if you're really trying to protect the consumers here, an acquisition of this size that has such little effect on something that's so insignificant also as video games is also just point blank ridiculous in the first place, right? So I really think that this could be the thing that causes hopefully at least a um, different way of doing things by the FTC, even if there isn't a shakeup. But I think as long as she's there, it's going to be, hey, let's just keep throwing up losses in court.
Yeah.
And that's not a good look. And there was former FTC commissioners that have talked about this, that like her strategy is flawed, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Her strategy is flawed, and it's actually reducing their amount of power the FTC may have, as opposed to giving more, which is what she's been attempting to do.
Crazy. It's insane. It's such a disjointed case. There's no continuity. The questions are all over the place. 1 minute it's Game Pass, next minute it's Call of Duty, 1 minute it's Nintendo, then it's cell phone, then it's mobile. By the way, let's go ahead and shuffle the Stadia guys in here and ask them a few questions about their service that no longer exists anymore. Right? Let's see what they have to say about Xbox and see, you know, like why, like what, it's so purposeless. Like there's no
Even that witness blew up in their face.
Yeah, and that blew
and that's one of their own witnesses, right?
Yeah.
Like aren't lawyers supposed to prepare their witness? I mean, you don't lead them per se, but you at least prepare and sit them down and go through a list of questions. And I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, it's on you anyway. It's on you. Go ahead, Fuzz.
This whole thing to me is just ridiculous in the sense that wasteful spending, wasteful government spending. I don't want to get into the political aspects of it, but to me, remember when they had that hearing with Lena Khan, and they were talking about consultants and experts that they had hired to work with them? I want to see these receipts and how much these mofos got paid and what they were doing, because they got bamboozled, or us taxpayers got bamboozled, in the sense that whatever these experts were telling them, if they were telling them anything other than you have no case, just, you know, settle or come to the table and move on. If that wasn't the advice that those advisors gave them, then I want to see what they're up to and what kind of Ponzi scheme or you know, money laundering scheme they were running, because it makes no sense to me for them to ask for more money so they can hire things like consultants and experts to help them in a case that they may be unfamiliar with. Which I can understand. Lawyers that are supposed to be dealing with customer-based issues or protection for consumers, if they're not familiar with every aspect of that job. Like, you don't have to be familiar with gaming, just like you don't have to be familiar with cars or other electronics or the food processing stuff. But you would hire these experts to at least give you some guidance. And it seems like whoever they hired must have been like interns fresh out of, like, you know, PlayStation high school or something.
One of them 4 a.m. lawyers or something.
But it makes no sense to me for them to come to court this unprepared. They should have known, with this judge being the one that already dismissed the PlayStation fan lawsuit without prejudice, which means it can't be brought back to court. They should have known that's almost like a nail in the coffin for them. So if they screw this up, there is no more for them. So it's either they would have been better off just not showing up and not wasting the court's time or government money, or they should have, you know, at least prepared better, looking at that case and go in a different direction, because it looks like they're following the same stupid processes that case faced. I mean, it was a bad faith case to begin with, and this whole FTC thing is a bad faith one as well, but it just seems like it's worse than unprepared. It's almost like either it's self-sabotage intentionally, which that would be kind of weird to me, because that's still a waste of time and money, and that's not going to reflect well on the administration. Like I've wondered when the administration is going to like sit with Lena Khan and be like, you're bringing more heat to our campaign or next campaign than necessary. Either move on or I'm moving you out of the seat. That should have been the conversation that would have been had in any other administration, regardless of what political party. But right now, it just seems like they're disjointed from the FTC and they're letting them fail or continue fail and have these lost cases and not stepping in. Like, at some point, like the whole sports analogy, if your team is on a 3-season losing streak, guess who goes? The coach usually goes, right? why is Lena Khan still in her job? Like, I don't understand.
Well, it shows too fuzzy why so many other people have left the
Yeah.
FTC, and they have those in-house polls and
Mhm.
stuff,
Yeah.
surveys that they do, and they're all like unhappy and think that
Lost
they're on a
confidence.
bad track, and they have no confidence in the direction that they're going in.
So, quick question then: what's the long play for the FTC? So if we've all settled, all 5 of us sitting here, right? None of us have been a mayor, or none of us have run for any kind of actual political office, but
We're mayor of Speculation Town.
Oh, my bad.
PTK.
My bad. I'm humbly corrected, Chad. I apologize. My bad, Pong. Hey, look, don't kick me out. I like my house in Speculation Town. Please don't.
We have the best town going, right? So we got the lowest crime rate, right? We got the best weather. We made that deal too. We even got the weather right. So yeah, no, we're some good mayors around here. Let's go.
Good. Oh, finally, right? Finally get some competent people in there. But no, but just like, what's the long play then, right? Like, so where are we at on this? Because it's going to it's damaging to what they're actually trying to do, and they knew this ahead of time. You looked at all the evidence. We've all said you had months, you had plenty of time. You got a building full of people. You got government regulators that literally that's their job to look at these things and review them every day. What information did they give you to say, okay, this is cool to pursue? Like, where did that happen on the chain of command?
I mean, the only thing I could think of at this point is that maybe there's some that were like, you know what, the best way to get Lena out of here is to sabotage her and give her bad info. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. Because if not, yeah, like it give her these statements and directions to question that way when the team goes to court, it just gets laughed out of court type of thing. Like, at least if I'm that disgruntled employee and I really, am passionate about what the FTC is supposed to do, and this knucklehead in the chair seat is not doing like what the laws on the books state, maybe I would sabotage her. Maybe I would give her bad info, because how's it going to come back to me? Is she going to fire me? It's a government job, so that's a long process to be able to fire her. Her being at the top of being appointed, that's the easier one to remove from the position. But it just feels like maybe somebody is sabotaging from the inside to get her out of there. And that would be, I would say that's the best long game for the employees that chose to stay. Outside of that, the only thing is to get her out of there. Like, stop wasting government money chasing cases that are not valid. Focus on the things like where there are safety issues for consumer products, or when there is price fixing, like with cable companies. That should be one that should have been focused on. But
I want my fiber.
One, Agipie, kind of swept that under the rug when a lot of those dealings went through. But those are the things to focus on. Not it's video games, yes, I know, and there's billions of dollars in that industry, but focusing on it just because of the dollar amount as opposed to the actual actions or the process of what is happening with these mergers, it's just the wrong fight, and it's a waste of time. And I hate wishing somebody lose their job, but that's one person that should have a long time ago. After, I would say, lost case 3. Yeah, you're done. 3 strikes, you're out.
And they have a terrible track record, chat. You guys can go check it out. You can Google it for yourself. They're not very successful at these things. And you can see why. It's on full display as to why they're not very good, and they don't have a great winning percentage. And they got a terrible leader as well, too. I think we've highlighted that as well. So I wanted to get into, before we switch lanes in here and go on to something else, I wanted to get into some of the stuff that's come out of this case, right? And one of the big thing for me is the Indiana Jones stuff. Right, like that got me really excited, because obviously we would have never known that information until they were ready to tell us. Right, that's some E3, maybe direct developer direct type stuff. This never happens. We never get an announcement like that. Like, I don't know, this has never happened before. So kind of that coming out, and I just kind of want to get your opinion on that too. I guess we could double back with you, Fuzz. Just real quick on the Indiana Jones thing.
Oh, it was awesome hearing that it's going to be exclusive. And Jasper kind of pointed it out last night, as far as when it came to, maybe it was because they had to come back to the table because of the purchase, but even with them having to come back to the table, I would assume that, okay, Game Pass, that would make sense as far as the negotiation aspect of it, but to make it exclusive, I still, my gut is telling me maybe Phil is tired of the Sony BS that's going on kind of thing. Because I don't, well, maybe that was before the whole ABK deal as far as that negotiation, but I would like to know as far as, because they I guess did 2 renegotiations. One was for Game Pass, one was for the exclusivity. I wonder if the exclusivity driving factor was, just looking at how Sony is acting with this ABK deal.
And he pointed that out on the stand, right?
Yes,
Too Fuzz, where he was asked about that, and he said, "Well, they've got Spider-Man, so we need licensed IP too." So maybe his stance did change now, right? He's been very hardcore about not doing that with IP he doesn't own, but maybe looking at what Sony has been doing, Spider-Man, now Wolverine, he was like, "Okay, enough's enough. I've got to get some licensed IP over here." Just a thought.
Yeah,
it makes sense.
Yeah. That it totally makes sense. I mean. It's great that we are hearing it now. It would have been nice as a surprise for the next showcase next year or something like that. But man, some juicy stuff coming out of this case that actually is good news on the Xbox side.
Yeah.
But man, I'm curious. I hope it's third person. I'll be fine if it's first person as well. But I want to see more of that game. But that it was the coolest thing. That is one of the secret things. Although I still wish we would have gotten to see the Jim Ryan video, the call in video. Well, not call in, but the submitted video as opposed to the live in person type of deal. Because he chickened out, or maybe the FTC told him.
Yeah, I got other things to do.
Home.
I'm visiting the CMA right now. We're talking shit.
Couldn't be bothered because he knew his email was coming out. That's why he couldn't be bothered to be embarrassed, right?
I don't need to be there. So, but no. I want to get Mavs and Steel get you back in here too, brother. The Indiana Jones thing, bro. Right? We never get announcements like that. This never ever happens. And it's kind of weird, right? Like, cause I'm excited, but it's like it's weird to get it the way we got it, right? Like it feels almost like. Okay, like that was cool, but it wasn't the way we wanted. But no, like just overall, where you think at what is the influence? Because we talked about this. We said, it might be more of a Disney thing than a like Xbox thing. This might be because people forget this Disney's running where these IPs go. At the end of the day, Disney decides on who gets these things. So I feel like the relationship with Xbox and Disney has grown to a point. They've gotten comfortable. You see it with Sea of Thieves. You see it in some of the other games. And I think Disney looks at it. They look at their video games. They see the success, and it just makes sense. For something like Indiana Jones. So where you at on it though? Like just where you at?
So as far as the whole Indiana Jones situation, I think that this is probably the most excited. This is probably the most exciting way that you could have announced Indiana Jones, because outside of that,
that's a good point too. That's a good point.
Outside of that, like I'll be completely frank, and I know there's people in the chat, and I know there's people that tune in and have been gamers for quite some time.
Oh, here it comes. Prepare yourself.
But I'm here to tell you guys that Indiana Jones isn't that cool.
Yeah,
he's just not. Now look. When I say this,
we had this discussion this morning.
It's cool. No, I get it. I love it. Yeah.
Now, with me saying this, I'm not saying that as somebody who doesn't like Indiana Jones. I think Indiana Jones is a cool dude. I even admit to the fact and will always say that Indiana Jones is literally the grandfather of Tomb Raider. He is the grandfather of Uncharted. He has started. That's why any of those games exist. That's why any of those characters exist at all, right? So it's like, and it even goes further back where you go Pitfall and whatnot. But anyway, just focus on Indiana. The reason I say this is the most excited is because Indiana has been dropped dead as an IP for quite some time.
Especially
the last
in the
movie, that too, but the last movie that I remember was not that great of a movie. Was that the movie where he got into a fridge at the end or whatever?
Yes,
bro,
the Crystal Skull.
Bro,
Yes,
are you kidding me? And you think that people are supposed to be just, the most recent young people that are coming up? I'm not talking about like 10, 12. I'm talking about your 20-year-olds, the people who are going to be the next ones coming up in this industry. Think they're going to give a damn about Indian and be like, oh man, I heard about, my dad taught me about him, but I mean, I don't know if I care about that. Now, again, the thing that Indy does have, because he is pretty much the originator of that kind of storytelling, I should say, and that adventure that you bring to the table. A gritty dude, he got the whip, he got the gun, he's nice with the hands. is that it's literally indie, right? It's like finally you're put in a position to where it doesn't have to be other people creating what you are. You can just make a game under the Indiana Jones IP and make it something special. Now, I only say that it could be something special because of the team that's behind it. Outside of that, I don't know what else would be possible. Now, that also gives me some stand back because I don't know if the game's going to be third person. And I would love for the game to be third person because I do feel as indie is somebody that you have to be able to see, visualize. You want people to really recognize who this character is. You want to see him really get that whip motion in and the animation work that they really put into it, because right now PlayStation is known for that, right? The animation work, everything looks crisp, it looks like everything has a purpose, right? You're seeing it now more in some third parties, but mainly PlayStation's really honed that in, and I think that's why people really, it's cinematic, and yeah, there's some of that, but it's also that animation work. But it's just, for me, I don't think that Indies is as an exciting IP to get as an exclusive, personally. Now, I get the conversations, we had to go get something. Like, the something couldn't have been Punisher. The something couldn't have been a Deadpool. The something couldn't have been something DC related.
Remember, this was ZeniMax. ZeniMax deal.
Which I get.
Todd's baby. And it's Todd's baby.
This was something Todd wanted to make for a long time.
Which I completely get. That's just kind of my thought process when it goes to there. Now, when you add those other elements on it that you guys were just bringing up, the fact that Todd is going to be the one basically having the oversight over this project, then okay. If this is something that he's been wanting to create, I always believe in creative vision, right? And if we're going to get Starfield and that ends up being a decent game, then maybe I'll have less worry about Indiana Jones and its direction.
Decent.
Right?
Did you just say decent?
Oh man,
Decent.
see, yes.
You've
been have this show going the wrong direction and stuff like that.
The game is going to be only decent if I can't find my space outfit.
Oh, here we go. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
it's
about the looks with Steel.
I hope Todd's listening. Todd, make sure you give Steel some cool spacesuits.
I hope you get stuck as a space werewolf for the entirety of Starfield.
You know what? That would suck. That would really suck. It would be cool as hell, and I'd be the one complaining about that I can't customize the way he looks. Yeah,
great.
Right.
No, but so you made a lot of great points. I want to push back on a couple things still.
Yeah.
We might go all show about this, guys. I'm sorry, but listen, I want to push back on a couple things, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't necessarily, I get what Indiana Jones is, right? It's not Spider-Man. We all understand that. It doesn't really have a relevant connection with the younger generation. There hasn't been a very relevant movie or anything attached to Indiana Jones outside of Uncharted or Tomb Raider, right? That's been the only kind of connection. So, I mean, you could make that case that Sony doesn't even have that as well, and their games still do incredibly well. So add in, and Indiana Jones is still more recognizable as a brand than Uncharted and Tomb Raider, I would argue. So, you know what I mean? If you did a survey.
Maybe to us old folks who are older and have an understanding of who that is, but if you're talking about like this game needs to sell some dollars, like I don't know if it wasn't for Game Pass whether this would still be an exclusive conversation. I think this would be we need it needs to be everywhere, because again, it's just, I'm not saying that the power of the IP isn't there, but it hasn't shown itself at all recently. And there's nothing that I can necessarily hold a candle to and say, oh yeah, this makes sense, outside of having developers behind it whose creative vision you could trust. Right.
Got it. And like I said, I understand that it's not a known quantity. We don't have anything to really get excited about Indiana Jones for realistically, but at the end of the day, man, like we've kind of asked for this, you know, and like Pong said too, you know, if you kind of look at it too, this was more of a ZeniMax thing, but I'm still excited about it, and to each his own. I still think it's a big enough IP to be excited about, because we haven't had a game like this on Xbox, you know, on this particular ecosystem, on this platform. So it's exciting to be, as an Xbox gamer, to see them go this route, to finally hear it's exclusive. We've wanted that as well too. You know, we wanted them to be a bit picky, although we don't know if this was their choice. It was obviously Bethesda's ZeniMax's choice to pick the IP. We don't know how much influence Disney had over this, or how much advanced this conversation was. But I want to make sure we get to everybody too. But I do hear what you're saying. But Pong, I want to make sure we get everybody on this one too.
So you want me? Yeah.
Just
Indiana
kind
Jones.
of
Just kind of dive into it.
Jones
Okay.
thing,
Yeah. What really surprised me as I thought about it, right? I know they started the showcase in January, February, right? They prepare long in advance for the showcase and start putting everything together. But they had to know if this was going to go to court that this game was going to come up, right? And that this was going to be revealed. I'm kind of shocked they didn't at the last minute at least give us get Machine Games to give them just a snippet of Indiana Jones and throw it in the showcase so that they controlled the announcement that there was going to be Xbox exclusive, right? That's the biggest shock to me here. The fact that we finally got the question answered, and I know some people have been on the train, it's absolutely exclusive. But I think there was some relative questions as to whether or not it would wind up exclusive. So the fact that we got that answer, off the witness stand, kind of weird. Kind of strange, man.
No, I'm excited, but it's
it's kind of strange.
Yeah.
And to me, the exclusivity didn't matter. With this type of IP, I could care less at the end of the day. As long as I knew it was coming to Game Pass day and date, really, for me, that's all I really care about, that it's going to be there for me, and I don't have to plop down as a budget gamer extra money to go play Indiana Jones, which I would because I'm such a huge Indiana Jones fan, right? Number one. So I am that nostalgia guy, right? I am that old guy who wants to play as Indiana Jones. And to Steele's point, we haven't had anything good from Indy for a long time. And I have the utmost faith in Machine Games, and obviously I have the utmost faith in Todd. And yes, I know, Todd put his name on this. He's got Starfield. He's going to be moving on to Elder Scrolls 6 here shortly. All that stuff is on his plate. And yes, he put his name under Fallout 76. And I always say, well, that wasn't really the A team. So right. I do come from it at that point. But this was another Todd dream game. He pitched this game 8-10 years ago to Disney or to Lucas, I should say, and it just didn't work out at that time. So this is something he's wanted. So I do believe he's going to be more hands-on with this game than he was with the Fallout 76 bit. So I think that this game is going to be, I have the utmost confidence in it, and we could get something really great out of it. And again, we haven't had much from Lara Croft or Nathan Drake for a long time. And so my point this morning to Steele was, no, I understand. Indy is not the IP that Spider-Man is worldwide, right? It's not even close. It's apples and oranges when you come down to it. But the fact that Indy is still recognizable in 2023, if Machine Games can put together a compelling story, which is the thing that made the old Indiana Jones movies the best, right? It was the writing. It was obviously Harrison Ford acting, all that kind of stuff comes into play. But it was the writing. It was the adventures he was going on. They were top notch. They had comedy. They had action. They set the tone. And yes, that's exactly what Tomb Raider and, of course, Uncharted copied. But if they can come back... Right, beat for beat. If they can come back to that and Machine Games can be like, look, whatever the movies are doing now, the movies are doing, that's not us. We're going to do something different. If they can go back to the original indies and they can come out with a game that has all of the mechanics that we know Machine Games can do, on top of having a great Indiana Jones story and adventure and treasure hunting, then I think that there is a place where people do get excited for it, even the younger generation, because the reason why Tomb Raider and Uncharted are so popular wasn't just because of Indiana Jones, but it was because it filled that role of that narrative of I'm going treasure hunting, right? I'm going on this big adventure. It's going to be crazy, huge set pieces, all this
Laura
kind
was
of
a
stuff.
baddie too.
Right. Laura was a baddie, right? But Nathan Drake wasn't necessarily a baddie, right? Steele, but he had that swagger. He had that swagger, right? He had the Indiana Jones swagger. So I think if they can find that in the game, then I think people will get excited. More people than just the Indiana Jones fans, more people than just us old heads trying to relive some nostalgia. I think it could grow beyond that, where that is that kind of missing game we haven't had in that type of genre for quite some time now. So I do think this is a big moment, and I'm glad. I'm happy because how many times have we talked about this? as much as I say exclusives don't matter to me personally as a gamer, as long as they're Game Pass day and date, hey, it's like an exclusive to me. But at the same time, we have talked about the importance for Xbox to get those recognizable IP, right? That exclusives still do matter to the ecosystem for driving home the identity of said platform. That's, again, all you got to do is look at Nintendo and Sony to realize how big exclusives still are. And yes, I know Xbox is moving beyond the box and they're moving beyond that into a new realm, but they're still highly valuable to your platform at the end of the day. The fact that Phil went against his philosophy here, and he stated his philosophy many times, the fact that he went against that shows the importance of this to him, and it shows that he still understands what that means. And, again, what he said on the witness stand was telling. The fact that he was ready for that question and that he instantly said, Sony's got Spider-Man. That's a Disney property. They've got it exclusive, right?
On top of, they were possibly going to take Starfield and make that.
Oh, we'll get to that too, right? We'll get to that too. That was another big reveal. But the fact that he used Spider-Man and then said, so we needed our own licensed IP. We do need some licensed IP for us exclusively as well. That shows that he gets it, and he's not so stubborn or so hard-headed to believe that his philosophy is the be-all, end-all of things. Right. Sure, if he had his choice, he'd rather not do it, but he still gets why it's necessary. So that was a big moment for me, just saying that, hey, no, we went out, we obviously were renegotiating the contract for Game Pass, but then we also took the extra step to make sure that it was exclusive to our platform. It's a big moment, and I think it's a big W for Xbox, and I have the utmost faith. Again, I'll say it, the utmost faith in Machine Games, in Todd Howard's vision for this, and I think that we are going to get a great, even if you're not looking for Indiana Jones, you're going to get a great adventure game out of this. And I think it's going to be a really good game, and that's exciting to me. So,
Same. And at the end of the day, I think that's what I was trying to encompass. It's a new game, a new IP. It's not a type of game that we get or have had here on Xbox, if you're in the Xbox ecosystem. So I'm excited, right? And Machine Games, we've been wanting to see what they're doing. So knowing that they're working on this, it's exciting. And it's Indiana Jones, right? Even for my old ass, I'm excited for Indiana Jones. Right? I get that, maybe the 27 and unders don't care, but I'm still excited for this game, what the potential could be, for sure. So I'm super excited about it, man. And chat, shout out to all you guys too. I got some super chats I need to get to here real quick before we move on, and I hand this over to my right hand man.
You didn't get Mav's thoughts on this.
Oh, my bad, Mav.
It's okay.
Mav's playing Diablo, so don't worry about it.
I know, right, Mav?
I'm good.
Let me get the super chats real quick, Mav, and then we'll bring you in here real quick. My bad, brother. So we got a $2 super chat from Chris Jones. Hope you had a blast in LA, PTK. You deserved it. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it. I did, sir. Another $2 super chat from Chris as well. He said, I actually own a mansion in Speculation Town. Yeah, I don't got a mansion yet, man. I'm still waiting on that Speculation Bank to get a loan.
Oh, we're raising taxes next year, so just so you guys
Lord,
all
hell
know.
yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah. The Unicorn Union is pushing us hard. They're expecting more money. So
oh Lord, that's gonna be... I mean, can we at least get a meeting about this, or is this you guys?
No. The decision's already been made, man.
Oh Lord. Okay.
Yeah. If you want to continue to live, prosper, with and prosper within Speculation Town, it requires a little extra. So and that's got to come from somewhere.
Buy
right?
the PSVR 2.
Right. Tour prices are going up too. Tour prices are going up as
and
well.
And eggs in Speculation Town cost $12.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, the eggs come from the Easter Bunny in Speculation Town, so it costs more.
We have an inflation rate of 20% a day.
None of this was in the brochure. This is false. This is ridiculous. No, but let me get to this last. I know, right? You got to read the fine details. Let me get this last super chat. $5 super chat from Alvin. Shout out to you. He said maybe they were going to reveal Indiana Jones at D23 or Comic-Con in a few months. Other Disney games have been revealed there in the past. That is true, Pong. Yeah. That can happen as well too. So you got to take that into account.
Yep, absolutely. So
let's get this over to you, Mav. I know you're probably in the middle of a dungeon right now. Sorry about that, brother.
No, I teleported back to town just for this.
Awesome. Go ahead, brother. Where you at on the Indiana Jones thing? Because once again, it's weird to get an announcement like this the way we got it. We usually get these things at a fun, exciting event. We get to speculate, and he's on the stand like, yeah, Indiana Jones exclusive. We're like, what the hell? Did you just say that?
Shout out to Jim Ryan joining the chat, by the way, too. Jim Ryan's in the chat, everybody. He's been coming to all our shows this week. It's amazing. Jim Ryan, welcome.
Appreciate you, Jim.
And Jim, you got Uncharted still, so it's okay. If you keep making them, it's up to you. It's for me, it was just an answer to a question that we've been asking for a while. Like it is a strange way to finally get an announcement like this. I think they could have had it at their showcase, like at least mentioned or something like
Yeah.
that or whatever. But regardless of any of that, we finally have that answer. The biggest takeaway for me, though, like Pong was talking about, was the addition of renegotiating the contract to add that in, right? Because
Yeah.
to the point of they would have had to renegotiate because of Game Pass and all that stuff. I get that, but they didn't have to add the exclusivity in there, and that's kind of been a little against their mo with restructuring contracts. Like they would have had to restructure Deathloop, they would have had to restructure Ghostwire Tokyo as
So
well for Game Pass,
what do
right?
you think the extra incentive is for Indiana Jones? Maybe because it's Indiana Jones, you think there was maybe a special window? Maybe there was, because sometimes, Mav, you gotta think about it in business. Sometimes it's timing, right? A lot of times it's
Yeah.
when things happen. So maybe it was the timing of the deal versus Xbox versus where Disney was at with the IP, what their plans were for the future, right? It could, obviously, we might not get the answer to all of those things, but maybe it was just a timing thing.
Well, I think it's a two-pronged thing, right? I think that um to Steele's point about developing that relationship with Disney has been a thing, right? So with Sea of Thieves and what you mentioned PTK with the Pirates of the Caribbean content, that was kind of like, oh, that's interesting. They're
Yeah.
doing deals with Disney and stuff, and we
Mhm.
see Disney handing out licenses to
Crazy.
companies left and right
Everybody.
now. You got Star Wars this, you got Marvel that, all over the place, right? Even have games like XCOM come out, which are like, what? That's not XCOM, but sorry, Midnight Suns. Like we
Right.
never would have seen a game like that before. So there's a lot of things happening right now within the licensing, and it goes to Microsoft's willing to bet on a IP that they don't own as an exclusive is the thing that's different from them since Tomb Raider, right? So Tomb Raider was the last one that I can remember that was a big budget
Yep.
game. They went out
Yep.
and
Mhm.
bought exclusivity for to fill a hole that they had in their in the Xbox ecosystem to PlayStation's Uncharted,
And that
right?
backfired, unfortunately. Maybe it could
Well,
be redemption for that too. That didn't work out. Remember?
it didn't work out because Square complains about every single game that they put out about the
Yeah.
sales
Well,
performances, and
people
then
complain too that about the
it,
whole year-long exclusivity.
yeah,
Then
but
everybody started asking
screw that. I
questions.
mean, like people complain about Xbox games when they're exclusive, and then they celebrate PlayStation games when they're exclusive. So it's like, I exclusivity doesn't do anything for me. All I mainly care about is Game Pass, but it's important for Microsoft and Xbox to establish that there are things there that aren't anywhere else still, right? So I get the concept and I get the point of it. Indiana Jones, despite Steele's thoughts, is I think still pretty popular character. Now it's been dormant for a while. Yes, I agree. I agree. But all it takes is one good moment to bring something back
Mhm.
like that. And Harrison Ford, is about to. I think that movie just came out, didn't it? I'm not sure how it's doing, but Indiana Jones is back at the theater, and I think that it's going to be interesting because what matters most is if the game is good,
Yes,
right?
that
Because you can
ultimately
have Indiana Jones behind it. If it's a shitty game, then
doesn't
it's
matter.
not going to do anything.
Yeah.
If it's a great game, right, then Indiana Jones' name is going to mean something to that, right? So the fact that it's going to be in Game Pass as well means you're going to have a lot of people give it a try. It
Mhm.
is something different in the ecosystem that we don't have. It's also a very talented developer that has proven to work on existing franchises and IPs before. The Machine Games originally, founders came from Starbreeze Studios, the same guys that founded Starbreeze that made Riddick, one of people's favorite Xbox licensed games, right from back in the day.
Yeah, buddy.
They left and they formed Machine Games, and then they took over another existing franchise, Wolfenstein, and hit gold with that as well, right? So I have faith with them about trying to do right by the character and make a really good product, as well as Todd Howard overseeing it because this is one of his dream games, So whenever you have somebody like Todd that's like it matters to them this much, right? I think we're going to see the fruits of the labor there that's put and the attention that's put to it, as far as the quality goes with the product. And it'll be something that a different kind of game than we've had on Xbox. I don't know
Yeah, for
exactly
sure.
what it's going to play like. I think it'll be different than Uncharted. I think it'll be different than Tomb Raider. I think he's going to come with the original ideas and stuff. My dream is like, personally, if they could go back and retell some of the stories with like the original trilogy, and go along that path and you play it, and because I want to experience the Temple of Doom in a video game. I mean, that would just be insane.
That would be super dope if they end up treading those.
my
If they go back and just touch on those first 3 movies, I think they make a lot of money off of that for sure.
You can imagine like that the full experience of really being immersed into that. You know what I mean? Like I would love it, but who knows what they're gonna do? They could tell original stories. They could do a young Indiana Jones. They could do an older Indiana Jones. They could do whatever. I don't know what, but I think that there's a lot of potential there. But they gotta nail it, right?
Yeah.
They really gotta nail it. And if they do nail it, regardless of what the ideas have been about exclusivity before, about licensed games before, if this game is a massive success, it changes things with the way Microsoft and Xbox may be willing to do those deals, and you may see more of them, right?
Yeah.
So that's an opportunity there, and it's something that I wholeheartedly welcome, because even if Indiana Jones isn't currently the biggest name out there, obviously it's not like Spider-Man, but this could be the moment for them that opens them up to this whole universe of making all these other kinds of games now, but with the talent of all the developers they have, especially after you get ABK, right? Getting
talking about
Marvel
Deadpool earlier.
stuff, you get all these other things, it's like, okay, we're going to unleash the talent on these licenses, and even if Microsoft doesn't control them, we see the success that they can bring to the brand. And it's different today because all you need is people to subscribe into the ecosystem, as opposed to have to purchase the product, right? So once something draws them in, you have something else for them to look forward to, and they're going to stick around, right? And so I think it's a little bit of change in philosophy, and we'll see where it goes.
Awesome. It's so interesting, man. This case is revealing so much, man. Like you just mentioned, the fact that this strategy wasn't, Xbox publicly came out and said, hey, Phil himself said, we don't really go, it's not the strategy that we're taking. We're doing things differently, and to see them actually use that strategy. And once again, sometimes it's necessity. We don't know where they were at the specific time when this all went down. You know what I mean? We don't have that time frame. We can kind of guess, but we've talked about this for years with Xbox. Some of the things they need to do. Should they be more aggressive? Everybody's always said Xbox needed to be a bit more aggressive.
That was an aggressive move.
That was extremely aggressive. Now, once again,
an aggressive move to add that into the contract.
Exactly. Right? And we don't know what the motivation was. Maybe Phil and Todd had a conversation. Todd was like, hey, Phil, I need this. Do this for me. Like, I need this, bro. You already getting Starfield. Go ahead and grab Indy 2. It's going to be special. Maybe it was a dinner. Who knows? Maybe it was something real, light like that. Maybe Disney had other plans. But it's still really cool to see, even though we got it in a weird-ass way, rather than an actual showcase, we got it in a, dissertation. But, it was still good that we got the information either way. But let me throw this over. Once again, we talk about the FTC stuff all day. Let me throw this over to Pong, man. Where are we going after everything we've talked about so far, brother?
Where are we going? Well. That's a good question. We were so engaged there. Let's see. Let's talk about the revelation, which is something that we had all speculated on. Again, we traveled through Speculation Town a lot with Xbox over the past few years, ever since this gen started or was about to start. And one of the big speculations is that, there was smoke out there that Starfield was being shopped at least to places for exclusivity, and that Sony was trying to step in and get Starfield exclusive. And that now we have Phil on the witness stand stating that when they heard that, Todd phone call, that Sony was going to try to go after Starfield, right? That was enough. Enough is enough, because this came up on the witness stand when Phil was explaining to the FTC some of the moves that Sony makes to make things extremely difficult for Xbox to compete. This came off the heels of the news that we got there that, you know, they were forced by Bobby Kotick to take lesser money, a lesser deal than Sony to even get Call of Duty on Xbox this gen. And how hard that finally, how hard it's been for them to do business because of the position they are in this industry. People don't believe it. People just look and say, oh, Microsoft, $2 trillion company, maybe Xbox should just do better instead of using daddy's money to buy all these things. Well, Phil mentioned all the things that have been going on, and then it came to Starfield, and he said, when we heard that Sony was potentially going to snatch up Starfield as an exclusive, well, we just finally made the decision to go buy ZeniMax then, right? And make sure that that was going to happen because we couldn't lose any more content to Sony than we already have. And I think this was a big moment. Again, it's not something new because we talked about the smoke that had been out there, but at the same time, a lot of people seem to forget or people denied that Sony was doing that. Well, listen, now he's on the witness stand under oath, and he's saying he heard the same things. Again, Todd, thank you for the phone call. But I think that this is a big moment because now we are 2.5 months away from Starfield dropping, right? Not even 2.5 months anymore. From Starfield dropping, and we've seen the impact that Starfield is already having on Xbox with the Direct, with Starfield Direct, and everybody talking about this game, right? The circus is talking about it for its own reasons.
Good or bad? I was going to say,
The people are talking, but that is everything that we said was going to happen when people remember what a Bethesda game means, what a Todd Howard-led A-Team Bethesda title means, and to think about the potential that Xbox could have been without this game right now, coming in September, is a little tough to swallow, right? And not even mentioning the fact that Phil said that the contracts for Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo, were set up to skip Xbox, right? He said that he said, I'm not going to use the exclusivity term. They were paid to skip Xbox. So the facts are all on the table now. So I want to go here to our guest first. Steele, we talked a little bit about this morning, right? Mm-hmm. But give me your thoughts here. What it means to hear that, Phil and Xbox, and Microsoft, obviously, because of $7 billion up to that point was the biggest deal that they had made, right? Before ABK. That this was the tipping point and that potentially, that just that rumor or however Phil got his knowledge was that moment where push came to shove and Phil probably had to go to Satya and be like, look, Satya, this is what's happening. We need to make a move. This has got to be the biggest move we've made yet for Xbox. We got to go get our buddies over at ZeniMax and bring them into the fold. What do you think about this, man?
I think it's definitely Phil stepping into his dark Phil moment. No, it's perfect. It's something that we've kind of been asking for because, again, for the sake of competition, you have to compete, and doing it one way, as Phil has been doing it, trying not to make things exclusive, being very open. Because Phil being a gamer, I do think that he probably has some form of a soft spot for a lot of those different things, and he wants to give people access. But at the end of the day, I do think because of what is happening in court, maybe some of the conversations he's had behind the scenes, maybe it is some of the heart-to-heart moments he's had with Satya since, he asked or fought for Game Pass to be the thing that's going to help push them forward and got Satya to believe in services and whatnot. I think through multiple conversations, it's been made clear to Phil that something has to be done. You have to fight your competition, and us just continually saying, oh, well, it'll get better over time. Oh, we'll eat the cost. And, we could definitely be a multi-trillion-dollar company, but that doesn't mean we need to be taking a loss everywhere. And that's just not how business works. So I think this is one of the smartest business decisions that they have made. Again, when and then they just do it back to back. It's like you get ZeniMax and then back to back you jump in and you get Activision Blizzard. So it's like if the first move didn't tell you the direction that Xbox, Microsoft is trying to move things into, then why doesn't the second move convince you? And why is that? Why is the excuse always more so about people throwing around money and not about having the deeper conversation on what has been PlayStation's role within this industry since they've existed? What impact, social impact, do they have? What community impact do they have? And all of these things end up being forgotten when we end up having this like wide-ranging conversation about console wars and who's winning and who got better games. Although all these conversations are subjective, you still have to admit to the point that for whatever reason, Sony has continued to be able to, right? Mm-hmm. And in gaming, it's the only business where this has been allowed and nobody has said anything, because they just recently, within the last decade, if that, really within the last 5 years, where governing bodies have started paying attention to saying, okay, well, maybe this isn't just a kids thing. We may need to get some regulation in here. So you see all the issues that you're coming across now. Nobody understands what's going on. This has been my biggest cry about the gaming industry this entire time, and why I've always wanted to be so invested in it, because we have too many people speaking on things that they just don't understand. I felt like Phil maybe had some of that, where it's like, oh, I just don't understand why we have to cut certain deals and make these. But again, also it works into his favor, and it's not like he's going against anything that he said, because he is still creating a vast ecosystem. Right. It's not just about his one console anymore. So at that point, he can look at exclusivity different. Maybe it's a mind game for him. Maybe he had to do his own mental gymnastics because of him being a gamer, because he has some heart in this, that, okay, well, since we're building our own ecosystem at this point, you either put up or shut up.
It's a necessity. We need to put fuel in the fire, right?
Exactly. Stop arguing with me that accessibility is a problem, and help build with me whatever our future is going to be. I think that was more so the angle that he took, and I think getting ZeniMax was the first state at least to the need of Sony, saying, look, you can keep trying to cut these deals, but we're not stupid. We've been trying to play nice with you, because again, like they say, two wrongs don't make a right. But sometimes, you got to make that left and swing back. So,
especially in business, right?
Exactly.
There's no hold bar, man. There's no friends. It's cutthroat, and obviously we're seeing even more so how cutthroat it is. And Phil and Satya did what they needed to do at the time, right? And very interesting. Good thoughts there.
But also, like I was telling you, like I told you this morning, Pong, it's the other crazy thing too about this entire situation is when people try to draw so many parallels and have questions about this situation, truly ask yourself, and I know this is kind of like maybe a whataboutism, or, oh, Steele's just going off the deep end, but really ask yourself, what would Sony be doing right now if Sony was the $2 trillion
correct
plus dollar company currently?
Correct. And we got that answer in the email, right, from Jim, where he said they can go make these moves, right? They can go make these moves in reference to the ABK deal. And we all know that if Sony was in the reverse position, that they would have made these moves, and probably then some as well, as they gobble up the industry. Like you said this morning, Steele, Xbox would probably not exist if they were the $2 trillion company. And I agree wholeheartedly. Mav, let's get you in here, brother. Sorry to interrupt. Diablo, quick warp back to town real quick. Listen, Mav, we talked about Starfield in the from the perspective that it could potentially be, or would be, the biggest game to launch for Xbox since potentially Halo CE. I think a lot of that, now that we've gotten the Starfield Direct and the excitement around it, is kind of playing out in favor of that stance. I think you and I were definitely on that pretty early. You're the one who brought it up originally. But as we look at this now, to hear this move was made because Phil got this information, and we talked about this, the Starfield's kind of the start of maybe potentially you could count it as the new Xbox going forward. And it's going to be, the first salvo from Xbox saying, hey, we're here to stay. Our studios are firing on all cylinders, and look at us now, right? But kind of interesting to think, that this could have all been different had Satya and Phil not been in agreement. However, that all went down. Obviously, again, I don't think it's guesswork to know that Satya had to sign off on $7 billion, out of the bank account. It could have all been different right now had they not been in agreement on this, and that a simple rumor or however Phil got the knowledge kind of changed, maybe sped up the process. We knew they were already acquiring, right? They had made a bunch of acquisitions prior to that, especially 2018, etc. But man, to move on a publisher of the size of ZeniMax at the time being the biggest deal, it's kind of enlightening, isn't it, Mav? That this would happen based upon the fact that Sony was going after Starfield. What do you think, brother?
Yeah, I think that Phil wasn't going to have these Western RPGs become PlayStation exclusives.
Yeah.
It's kind of telling sometimes, you can kind of read the room with Phil. It's like some of the deals he makes are like kind of things that he's interested in as well. You know what I mean? Which is pretty awesome, I have to say. Like, if I was running Xbox, I'd be like, okay, let's do this and let's do that because I think it's awesome, and like we know how Phil feels about Todd Howard and all those games and the thought of that, not the next big huge space RPG from Todd Howard not coming to Xbox,
right?
That's not gonna happen. That would have never. No.
Phil to swallow. I think Phil was like, you know what I just heard, Satya? Oh my God!
It's crazy.
Bastard Jim Bryan over here trying to take Starfield away from us.
Phil's from Texas.
$7.5 billion, and I'm gonna put him in his place, Satya. Come on, buddy, let's get behind this and make Starfield an Xbox exclusive. Game Pass day one, baby. Let's go. No,
Dale Dimmadome.
Hot dog, Satya, and Adela. Let's go put Jim in his place. Oh,
Phil turned into Jerry Jones all of a sudden. Let's go.
He's starting to act like Jerry now too. Huh?
Yeah.
Gonna find me some glory hole.
Whoa!
Wow, that's an Xbox Ultimate. Whoa,
that's a Jerry Jones statement.
FSP.
Oh, it was a Jerry Jones statement.
Oh, yeah.
He said that. He was talking about the oil business.
Okay.
The oil business.
Oh, that's what they call that. That comes
Yep.
out now. Oil.
Yeah, oil.
Yeah.
It's a glory hole where the oil shoots out. You find it. You struck oil. That's what they call it.
Oh my God.
Anyway. It's a real quote. You have to go watch.
Yes, it is.
In a pre.
He didn't understand what he was saying.
Yeah, he didn't know.
He didn't know that definition had changed from his day, right?
Yeah.
That was the whole thing. Jerry was a little out of touch. Let's put it that way.
But yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's pretty big moment when they made that announcement. I remember like not believing Kate because she like woke me up and told me it was like 7 a.m. or something like that. I was like, what? And my immediate thought is like, man, Starfield. Well, that's crazy,
Right.
And it's pretty, early on, Pong, people were like, why are you guys even excited for Starfield?
Jesus.
You
And
don't even know what it is.
You don't exactly. Just kept saying that, and I'm like, my God, guys, you don't understand. You don't know what it is because you haven't been paying attention. You forgot who this is. And now that everybody's seeing what it is and reminded of who they are, with Bethesda Game Studios, the lead dogs there, right?
Right.
You see how important this acquisition was.
Right.
Because it is potentially a generational game.
Correct.
Right? It is that game that can become a new identity for you as far as a reason for people to come to the ecosystem, a reason for people to try out Game Pass and all these different things. And there hasn't been a new IP, at least yet, launched this generation that's had this much power, right? I would say Halo Infinite was pretty close to this as far as anticipation, excitement, and all those kind of things. Starfield is
It's
the
the
first
mystery with Starfield, man.
Yeah,
Not knowing
it's
the unknown. Yeah.
exactly, and I think a new IP holds a different kind of possibility as far as um getting an audience, a new audience, right? Because we have our Halo fans,
Right.
right? We have our Gears fans, we have our Forza fans,
Of
right?
course.
And those
Mm.
people are all still behind Xbox because we're all waiting for the next one, right? But there's another audience out there that loves and looks forward to these other types of games and generational types of games. Which how much did Skyrim end up selling recently? It was like 60
60
million.
million.
Yeah.
60
Yeah.
million,
They just
yeah.
reported over 60.
Yep,
Yep.
60.
To have the next big RPG from that team come and be actually exclusive behind the ecosystem is pretty damn crazy now, and it's going to potentially bring in a whole new audience and set the stage for this new wave of every game per quarter type thing. And it's almost like there's been a flip of positions in a way as far as exclusivity goes with big titles to look forward to, where it used to be PlayStation was the one that had the big hitters, right? Now, besides Spider-Man coming later this year, there's not a lot known about the pipeline coming for PlayStation. They're experimenting with more live service stuff and all these kind of things. Where Xbox has this pipeline, and you mentioned them earlier, Pong, with the Idle Sloth thing about all these
Yeah.
games coming. A lot of them are single player, a lot of them RPGs. You have different genres as well coming, and it's this new wave of stuff that for these different players as opposed to just the Halo, Forza, Gears thing. So the Starfield's kind of the big kickoff for that. And I'm pretty damn excited about it. We're gonna see how it hits, right? Obviously, it's still got to hit and it's got to deliver. I have a lot of confidence in it. I think it's going to be amazing. But it
Yep.
was a huge get for them, and I could not imagine if this holiday
Oh my
season
God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that Spider-Man 2 and Starfield were PlayStation exclusives, and Xbox just had Forza Motorsport.
Oh, that would have been terrible.
That's the
That would've been
situation
hot
we would have
ass.
been in
Yeah.
this holiday.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
I would have been happy, but hot ass.
Yeah, it would not have been a good situation at all to find themselves in for Xbox. Again, with everything that's happened. Again, hindsight 2020, we look back and not knowing what would have happened, but again, you got to have some foresight to see where this is going and what you're going to need to compete. And I think, Fuzzy, you've been going last all night, so I'm going to get you here. Fuzzy, the old rules no longer apply when it comes to Xbox. They're out here forging their own path in a lot of ways in an industry that was stagnant to some degree. Obviously, console sales had stagnated, right? They had leveled off. They weren't growing, whatever the case may be. So Xbox came into this gen, obviously coming off the last gen, having, and again, I'll point this out for all the people who don't understand, money doesn't get you everything, right?
Nope.
And at the end of the day,
Sure don't.
you have to overpay when you're in the position of Xbox, and that's now been said under oath on the stand that they have to overpay or take lesser deals just to get content, some of the biggest content, because that's how the industry looked at Xbox, right? And we've known this, right? We've seen what Square has been ignoring Xbox this entire time. And yes, sure, some of the blame definitely lays at the feet of Xbox and what happened with Donnie D and what he did to the Xbox One gen to start it out. But at the same time, when you're in that position, sometimes you got to go to extreme lengths. And I think this is a case of that, right? Again, they were in the mode of acquisitions. They knew they had to grow. They had already convinced, Phil had already convinced Satya that Game Pass was a potential way forward for Xbox. One of a couple different ways. Again, we know that Game Pass is a vehicle, but it's only one of the vehicles they're looking at because they're moving into mobile and all that kind of stuff. So they were already kind of in this mode. But were they in the mode of paying $7 billion at that time to go after a ZeniMax, right? Was Satya that ready to open up the books, right?
No way.
Right? So the fact that they got convinced to make this move at this time this is a key moment potentially for Xbox. Even, as we look at the $70 billion deal right now with ABK, this ZeniMax deal was that key moment. Could have been the start of that, that rock rolling down the hill that leads to an avalanche, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, that maybe wouldn't have been there had a couple different things gone different ways. Maybe Sony doesn't make the play for Starfield, and maybe Xbox still kind of sits back and looks at individual studios still for acquisition. Fuzzy, what's your thoughts about this whole Starfield kind of deal, or I should say ZeniMax, being the move that they had to make to prevent Sony from once again stopping content from coming to their ecosystem?
Well, one of the things I like about Phil Spencer is that him being a gamer, you can tell when you have that insight for the market and your customer base, because technically you are your own customer to some extent. And seeing that type of, pattern where PlayStation's going to snatch up everything from you so you're left with crumbs, I think it got to the frustrating point where it's like we could probably pay a couple $100 million for exclusivity, or maybe half that to make sure it's on both platforms type of thing, pay our share or take a lesser share as far as the revenue return or something to get it. But to step up and look at the big picture as far as, okay, everything that comes from this publisher, we've had on our platform for numerous years. Some of them got their start or were exclusive to some extent at the beginning on some of those games. It would make sense to go ahead and bring them under the fold, because the key thing is you got to feed that Game Pass piece. You got to make sure you have a constant supply of content, which picking up individual studios helps, but if you could pick up like 5 or 6 for what you would probably pay for 2 or 3, or actually I think it was 8 studios for the price of what you'd probably pay for 3 these days, it made more sense to go ahead and do that, especially considering, because when your suppliers or dev teams or publishing teams that you work with are either struggling or having some bumps in the road as far as finances, considering towards the end before the acquisition, where a lot of their stuff was being pushed to this monetization aspect, where it didn't necessarily benefit the outcome of the games when it came to that Wolfenstein one with the twins, or with Fallout 76 initially at launch. So working with Bethesda in previous moments, and seeing that Sony is kind of sniffing around and looking to snatch everything up, like they've already did the deal with Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo, it made more sense for them to go ahead and put the $7 billion there, have those teams be internal, have those IPs, still honor some contracts. Luckily, nothing was inked before with Sony as far as for Starfield, but bring that in and then grow from there, and have that as an additional, I guess you could say, wing of studios. That way, when your first party Xbox game studios is got something cooking, or might be a little bit further away from releasing a game, you may have Bethesda that can slot right in, kind of like what they've done since they've been acquired, slot it in while some of the other stuff is still in the works type of deal. Right. An enthusiast or someone that's into gaming would be able to see the bigger picture, or look at that as being a good move. A businessman might not. A businessman might just look at the raw dollars and say, hey, let Bethesda fall. I mean, Starfield would probably bounce them back type of thing, but see if they can, get a cheaper price, let them struggle a bit longer, see if they, go up for sale where it's almost like a fire sale, and, get everything cut rate. But at that point, a lot of the talent may have left or retired or gone on to other studios. So it made sense for Phil to step up and say, hey, enough of the Sony, stealing our lunch money and everything else. Let's go ahead and pick these guys up and fulfill our catalog with stuff that will, continue having content flow for Game Pass. And, we're all better for it in the grand scheme of things.
Right.
But if Sony had inked that deal, I can't imagine what would wind up being the case.
Holy moly.
Sure, maybe they could have looked at Ubisoft, but Ubisoft, I think he still wants to be somewhere in charge kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think paying that money to them at that point in time would have made much sense, especially considering how they haven't really released anything for numerous months and stuff. But yeah, it's good foresight on his behalf. Having an enthusiast at the head table, definitely is paying off more so than your Donnie D's type of people where it's just. I mean, I know some people love him to death type of thing, but he pretty much almost caused the death of the Xbox brand with Xbox One. So I think Phil's vision and seeing the writing on the wall, if the Starfield, just the concept, and probably listening to Todd talk about it, you would know that that's going to be something special, and to miss out on that, to not have that on your platform. I mean, it would be essentially like Spider-Man all over again, because we heard rumors before that Spider-Man was originally offered to them, and it was a matter of, well, what team do you have work on it, and
don't have any
and so
studios.
forth, and it was probably not at their best financial moments, but
Right.
yeah, I don't think he wanted any more repeats like that.
Nope, I agree wholeheartedly. Great thoughts, Fuzzy, of course, as always, man. I definitely agree that having Phil in the head role definitely helps in these situations because he recognizes what could be potentially popular. He understands the gaming community better than most CEOs ever will, and that comes into play in certain cases like this. And obviously, his friendship with Todd obviously helped here too, right? That relationship
We're
that
not
he
even going to
developed.
deny that.
Right, exactly. Definitely was a play to part in this, that he could pick up the phone and say, "Listen, I know what's going on here. Let's talk. Let's sit down the ZeniMax board and let's see what's going on." And obviously, it probably made Todd very comfortable coming underneath Xbox, which he's talked about in the past as well. Very easy transition
Seamless
for them.
transition.
Correct. PTK. First of all, I got to thank Sony here, PTK, right? Because they by the sounds of it, they had finally fucked around enough and found out, right? And I gotta thank them. If this played a role in pushing Xbox maybe forward faster than maybe they had originally planned, who knows at the end of the day? But to put Phil in a position where he had to make a call like this to Satya and say, Satya, I need the debit card, man. We got to go get this done, right? we got to go get this done. This is how important this is. And bringing in one of my favorite developer of all time in Bethesda in their games to this ecosystem. I got to thank Sony for doing this, but PTK, for you, brother, when you look at this situation and what a moment in time, maybe wind up being one of the biggest moments here as Xbox transitions to these new rules that they're kind of writing on their own, expanding out the ecosystem, getting mobile involved, obviously expanding in the PC again, making that vital, which obviously Bethesda is PC first, right? That's their bread and butter. What a moment in time, like when you sit down and look at it, when Phil finally steps away and his legacy, winds up being written in the final stone, right? That this was that moment where he again, however he found out this information, whether it was Todd or whatever else,
right.
He just said, you could just imagine Phil getting the phone call from Todd or whoever and just going back and going, no way. They are not going to do this with Bethesda. They are not going to do this to us. We are not losing this.
That was an emergency meeting for sure.
Yeah, man. What a moment, man. So for you, PTK, realizing how big this actually is, now that we've this close to Starfield, as I've mentioned, and we've seen the hype around this game starting to really crescendo prior to launch, what does this say to you, PTK, about Phil and what he's done here to make sure that Sony wasn't going to take something like Starfield and all future ZeniMax titles away from Xbox, potentially forever? What do you think here, brother?
One, just right off the rip, it just tells me he's always been the right man for the job.
Yeah.
It just reconfirms that he's always been, despite all the shit we gave Phil, despite all of the mishaps we put on his shoulder, that just happened to land on his shoulder because of his title. You know what I mean? It's like, sometimes shit rolls downhill and he's the first guy. So you get a lot of the blame, Phil, but he's handled that beautifully. He's handled the interviews beautifully. He's treated the industry like a class act. He's always shown he's a gamer first. So just want to say that's the first thing.
100%.
Phil's an awesome dude. Great leader, by the way. Second thing is, this is what everybody asked for. Karma is a bitch, isn't it?
Yep.
Because
It
for
sure
an
is.
extremely long time, I remember the conversation being, well, what can Xbox do? What do they need to do? A lot of PlayStation fans, a lot of PC fans, you guys were very forthcoming with the with helping Xbox and giving us a lot of things that Xbox could do. Now they are exercising their demons and doing those things, and is uncomfortable for a lot of people. This is exactly what we wanted them to do and have even asked to do to certain degrees. Some of it, they've even gone way further. You know what I mean? As far as what you mentioned, the whole Starfield thing, that had to happen. You can, without even knowing what the game was, you cannot let the first new Bethesda IP in 20 years, you can't let that slide by you. That
Absolutely.
cannot happen. You cannot not be a part of that, especially with the relationship that they've already built with Todd, Phil, his relationship personally, as well as Bethesda's with Xbox. Todd already said it. They go back, they treat Xbox as like a secondary company, like a filter for their games. They run them through testing, they get help with the games, they get help with bugs and things like that. And these have been multi-plat games. These are games that are everywhere, but they always run things through Xbox like a filter. So it reaffirmed and reinforced that relationship that they have with them. But this is what we've asked for, right? This is what we needed them to do. The rules of the game changed. We tried doing this PlayStation's way. Like you already said, the old model has a cap.
Yep.
Right? We've maxed that out. We've reached 150. The Wii did what, 220? That's about as good as it's going to get. And that was a gimmick. Sorry, Nintendo fans. It is what it is. Sorry about that. But it is what it is. We've reached the cap. We need to do something different, and Xbox wasn't progressing. I'm sorry, Xbox fans. You have to swallow that pill. Between 2013 and now, well, not now, but 2013 and probably 18, they weren't doing a whole lot. It was really damage control. That 5-year period was, how do we fix the brand name? That was Phil's original job when they hired him. Remember, they hired him a year and a half into the mess, in the middle of the BS. He had to come in and really rebuild the brand before he could figure out, okay, what are we doing next? I have to make sure people actually want to still buy Xboxes first. So I can figure out, like, what next game should we go get. People don't even like us right now. So that's what he walked into, for real. That's what he walked into. So to see Xbox at this point, to see them doing everything that they're doing, them going out, getting IP, grabbing Starfield because they knew they had to, regardless of what the game ended up being. It could have been a mobile game. It didn't matter. It's a new IP from Bethesda. We need that. And like you said, it makes sense. Let's stop. We're not going to play any games. I've already talked to Satya. We've sat down. We had a conversation. He trusts me at this point. I need this to happen. I called Satya and said, look, I need you, like you said, hand me the debit card, call that bank and tell them we need that daily limit raised because we need it. We got a big purchase we about to make. Right. And it makes sense. And like you said, too, from a functionality standpoint, what does Bethesda do that benefits Microsoft as a whole, not just Xbox? What do they have that benefits? They have the mobile stuff. They have a bunch of tech. They have IP. They have talent. They have engines. All of that stuff benefits Microsoft, not just Xbox. So it fits in our portfolio. Let's do it. Let's pull the trigger. I don't think that conversation was as difficult as it probably sounded to us. 7 billion, 7.5 billion sounds crazy. Like, we really need to think about this. But it probably wasn't even as difficult as we think it is because it just made sense. I'm sure they sat down and looked at the data. They looked at all the information that was presented on the table with ZeniMax, on top of ZeniMax needing the money any goddamn way. They were floundering. They were
Didn't they supposedly also have the Orion tech that we haven't heard anything about?
Correct.
That was supposed to be. It's supposed to be actually better than what Google Stadia was.
Correct.
So it's like, so that could be another avenue. They might have liked might have loved what they saw from that.
Phil presented the whole package to Satya. Phil presented everything to Satya, right? Yeah. Said Satya, you said you're serious? Time to show up, man. Let's go.
Exactly. Absolutely. This is we need this done. I know this is not the way we used to do things. We need this done. We have the finances, we got the team, I got the people under me, I've built the infrastructure. Like, I put the people around me. Now I need you to go get the talent that I need. So I need you to go ahead and write up that 7.5 billion. And it made sense. And once again, we're going to look at this, Pong. We're definitely going to look at this as as a landmark point for Xbox.
Correct.
There's certain things that happened in the last 5-6 years. Game Pass being one of them. Even the 2013 stuff was a landmark because had they not been slapped in the face in 2013, we probably don't get this version of Xbox we're having now. We're getting to enjoy now. Right. Phil probably is not the CEO. We probably don't have Game Pass. We probably still dealing with Donnie Diaz.
We got Xbox movie studios too.
Exactly. We got Xbox. We got Connect 3.0. We got all kind of shit, right? So we don't want none of that. So and once again, like I said, it's karma, right? In a roundabout way, this worked out for us fans as fans of Xbox.
Yeah, whether planned or not planned, right? Ultimately, this was a moment that probably changed the course, right? That put them, and maybe not the ultimate course, they probably were already headed that direction, but this definitely led to speeding up that course. And I think that, listen, now they are the home of Western RPGs because of it, right? Everybody looks at them and says, listen, with Obsidian, now In Exile shows up with Clockwork Revolution, everybody's sitting up and taking notice of that, and you got the grand masters of the Western RPG to a lot of people, the Sandbox, now. Bethesda, now they've got that underneath their belt, and they're obviously pushing that, right? We got Avowed, we got Clockwork Revolution, and we got Starfield all dropping in probably the next year and a half.
Think
right?
about it, Pong.
It's crazy.
You mentioned it. Forza Halo Gears. That was that was the identity forever. It's a shooter box. Remember how many times did you hear that shit on 360? Oh, it's I used to get in the arguments with PS2 guys.
Dude shooters.
Dude shooter. That's all you guys play is Call of Duty and Halo over there. You know what I mean? Back before Twitter was around. But yeah, like you changed your narrative. You have an identity now. You're known for something. So your name is now synonymous with those big Western RPGs. That's correct. That's how Sony built the brand that they currently have. Your name is synonymous with high quality product. You know what I mean? So
narrative, third person, driven, over the shoulder. Games, right? Cinematic type games. That's what Sony's known for. Now Xbox is expanding out, and again, that's one thing we've talked about consistently is the diversity of Xbox.
And they already have the multiplayer stuff down packed. They don't have to do that. The way Sony's doing it is a lot more difficult.
Yep, they're finding out, right? Yep. They're finding out. So just great thoughts, brothers, overall. I think this is that moment we can look back to, and I just wanted to point that out now that Phil said it on the stand that, hey, this, again, we had speculated about it. The smoke was out there. Imran Khan had made that post after the announcement of ZeniMax that he had heard that Sony was going for the exclusivity, but to have Phil on the witness stand say that was the moment where they decided no more. We're not going to lose any more content to Sony. We're not playing this game anymore. We're just going to go buy up that damn publisher who happen to be people that we've worked with for a very long time. This is not going to be stolen from us. Big moment right here. So great thoughts, brothers. Thank you for your time and your words.
Not a problem. And I got another super chat to read before we get into fuzz and then wrap this thing up. But another $2 super chat from Chris Jones. Shout out to he said Xbox still gonna buy Square before my B-Day 324. Shout out to Chris Jones, man. You never know, brother. You never know. So we'll see. They might want to let this cool down after a little while after dealing with all of the litigation.
Full go. Full go. All speed ahead. Bulldoze everybody right now. Let's go.
Pong is actually pulling the strings at Xbox. You didn't know that. The cat is out the bag. So just forget whatever I said. Pong's gonna make all of that stuff happen. So good luck, Chris. No, but let's throw this over to Fuzz. Where we going this week, Fuzz?
I'm gonna do something different. I'm gonna kind of try to keep it somewhat quick. There's a bit of bad news, but I want to focus on like either not really positive spin, but positive options or hopeful options coming up as well. As we know, and with this ABK deal, recent news came out that Game Pass has gone up, as well as the cost of the consoles. Like one of the first times for Xbox, although Sony kind of paved the way with raising prices earlier in the year or last year, except for in the US, and much the same. Xbox is doing the same with their Series X console and stuff being raised roughly about $50 on average, but some places it's still less than what it is in the US when you convert it, but in the grand scheme of things, it's still a price hike, which is unusual for these types of electronics. And then the subscription itself goes up $1 for regular Game Pass and up $2 for Game Pass Ultimate. With before, I guess the big thing is they wanted to get that out the way before the ABK deal, because had it been done after the ABK deal, there'd probably be a lot more moans and groans and grumblings about it. Like, see, they were going to do this all the time, but they went and did it before the time. But what I wanted to do is with the price hikes, and I figure most of us have the consoles we want, but we're either still subscribed to Game Pass, whether it be regular Game Pass PC or Game Pass Ultimate. Are there any changes in your spending habits as far as when it comes to that, or are you focusing more so on Microsoft rewards points, or buying fewer games this go around, or whatever the case may be? I'll start off with you, Steele. With the recent price changes, what are your thoughts on that, just briefly, and are you making any adjustments in your budgeting, or throwing in any like rewards points to kind of counter the increase?
Yeah, so the whole thing with the price changing, of course, personally, I'm not ever going to support, just because you can't on one hand say you're making a lot of money and then backhand me and say, you know what, it's not good enough, so we're just going to raise the price on you regardless. That's just really confusing to me, especially with the previous statements you've made, especially with this how I want to say consumer facing that you've also been. I felt like you could have held on to this a little bit longer, but I've heard some pretty good points from some people saying that, hey, well, maybe they got this through to kind of get people to bite the bullet before they get Activision Blizzard to go through, to look good for the governments. And I was like, maybe that would be a smart thing to do. But again, anytime that you raise prices, to me, in a way that doesn't necessarily make sense, knowing that you make it up in so many different ways, and still today nobody can explain to me what happened to the money for your hard copies of your games. What happened to the booklets that came with our games?
Yeah.
What happened to our games coming out complete? It's just, there's just there's a facet of different things that kind of compound on top of each other, that it's just like I'm still not receiving the power of this generation yet. In my personal belief, I don't think Starfield is going to be, this is the tipping point, like everybody keeps trying to make it out to be. It's going to be 30 frames from here on out because Starfield is the pinnacle of what gaming will ever be. And then, if we ever get a patch 6 months later and it fixed it. Anyway, that's another side tangent. But overall, yeah, I don't think it's a good look. But it is what it is. I'm not going to have to change anything on my end. It's a couple bucks for me. I'm the guy that I don't do any of the reward stuff. I don't look for any of the promotions. I just pay for Game Pass straight out of pocket. Don't ever think about it. Most of the time, I don't even remember that I have it. Speaking of which, I don't think about it even more, because when I bought my Series X, I was given 3 years of Game Pass. So it's just like, well, so I am in a unique situation, but again, I'm also invested in the ecosystem at such a point where I probably wouldn't pull out anyway unless they did something completely egregious. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. There's no other. This is the best value in gaming that we're finding here. I'd unsubscribe from Netflix before I unsubscribe from like Game Pass or anything like that. For me personally.
Same. Good thoughts. Yep. And Mav, anything that you might be changing budget-wise as far as Game Pass or anything along those lines, more rewards or different purchases on games and things, and your thoughts overall just on the price increase at this point?
I use rewards often already, but I usually waste it on stupid stuff in the Microsoft store when it's on sale. But other than that, nothing's really going to change. I already buy less games than I used to.
Yeah.
Anyway, and it's not just because of Game Pass. Like Game Pass is one reason why, because there's so many games that come into it. But also games are launching so like subpar performance wise and broken a lot of the times these days, and there's too many damn games to play anyway. So it's like a lot of them I'm just waiting on.
Yeah.
I think overall it kind of still sucks. I think that doing the family plan would have been a good idea before announcing the price increase. That way, multiple account users would have an answer, because that's who it affects the most, really,
Yeah.
for Game Pass.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking
Um,
for.
like, yeah, for me, I have 3 subscriptions, right? Because we got 3 gamers in the house that play in multiple locations. So, yeah, I know everybody says, "Well, man, just use Game Share." We
Yeah, it only
use
works
that.
so much.
It only works between 2 devices, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So,
Mm.
it doesn't work in our household. And I there's so that's like $6 extra a month. Not a huge deal. You know what I mean? I'm sure
Yeah.
I can find a way to swing it. You know what I mean? But that being said, it's still something that I feel is unnecessary right now. The other thing could have been if they got the pipeline going a little bit better before they did the price increase. But I do agree with you, Fuzz. I think part of it is getting that out there before ABK closes, because they don't want to do it after ABK closes, because that would look worse. And there also could be
Yeah.
some kind of stipulations, maybe some kind of concession that we don't know about that could end up being agreed to, that they're not allowed to raise the price or something like that within a certain amount of time. That was something that had been previously discussed. I think Michael Pachter maybe even brought that up before. So there's
Yeah.
lots of different possibilities on why they did that. More egregious is the hardware increases in other
Mhm.
areas of the world as well. Again, America is unaffected, so you can't just blame inflation. You can say currency exchange rates and all that kind of stuff as well, but like I think honestly it was just they saw money sitting on the table in markets that they weren't selling that very well in to begin with, so they just said, "Well, we're just going to go ahead and meet Sony's price here," and I don't think that's a good strategy. I don't think they had to do it. I think it was more of a leaving money on the table type deal,
Mhm.
and didn't want to take as many losses in certain places. But we've already seen that they were profitable. Even if Phil says on the stand that they haven't met their quotas and stuff like that, which I've seen people talk about as well. Their financials came out last time that they were actually still profitable, and content and services were actually up. Hardware was down. They also came out recently and said that they were going to have more hardware available at the showcase, at the Xbox showcase. He was like, "Hey, yeah, we finally got this Xbox Series X thing handled. You're going to be able to see more at the stores soon." And then they follow that up like a couple weeks later with a price increase in most countries. So I just don't think that's that very good strategy. It doesn't really affect me too much. Um, but I give Sony smoke when they did it. Xbox deserves smoke when they did it. I still also would like to point out that if PlayStation didn't do this, Xbox probably wouldn't be able to get away with it either. And same thing with Nintendo charging astronomical prices for a Switch that's been out
Yeah.
for forever now, has never gone down. I can imagine the amount of profit they make per Switch sold. So there's definitely worse people in the industry as far as taking advantage of consumers with value.
Yeah.
Microsoft definitely gives more than anybody else with value. I just think more than anything it was not a great business decision as far as um, doing that right now. So if they could have held strong a little bit longer, maybe the cost would have been a little bit better. They could have started making a little bit money on those boxes.
Yeah. Totally agree. And good point on bringing up the family plan, because I would have liked that to been like the handshake after the slap to the face kind of thing. Oh, the prices are going up, but by the way, family plan's available now in more regions, and it's out of beta in the U.S. and this way it would be like a nice alternative, or another way to save some money in the meantime. But thank you for the feedback on that. Pong, what are your thoughts as far as I kind of know to some extent what your thoughts are on the price increase, but
Yeah.
any changes as far as budgeting or game purchases or using reward points or anything along those lines?
Yeah. So again, I will never, as a consumer, straight up, just as a customer, as somebody who spends money in this ecosystem, I will never agree to million, billion, $1 trillion companies raising prices on their consumers when they're out here bragging about record profits quarter after quarter. So I've always stayed consistent on that, and I will continue to stay consistent. I don't care who it is. I've talked about it just like Mav, just like most of us have when Sony did it. I come after Nintendo for still selling their Switch at $300 after all these years. That stuff is just, it's egregious to me. I understand the business side of it. I don't need to be explained that, and I'm not trying to change anybody else's opinion. If you're justifying it and saying it's okay, hey, that's totally fine. I'm just going to stand on my hill. It's not going to change. I'm not going to quit my Game Pass subscription. I'm not going to sell my Xbox, none of that stuff, but I'm still going to speak out about it and just state my opinion that I think it's wrong. And I wish that companies would find different ways than always passing it on to the consumer, especially when the consumers themselves are also facing the same, inflation, since a lot of people like to go to that. And it's affecting us a lot more than it is a $1 trillion company, right? So at the end of the day, that's where I stand. And so that's that. As far as it comes to my habits, I am a budget gamer. As you all know, I do have limited funds. I can't go buy every game. I don't buy every game. I have to make hard decisions. I just talked about it this morning. Aliens Dark Descent is a game that I want to play day one. But I have to be honest with myself that, listen, I'm not going to be playing that game a whole lot between Diablo 4 and Starfield coming out. So for my budget, I have to make the decision to say I'm going to hold off on that game. As much as I'd love to play it today, that's just not going to be it for me. So even a $2 increase, do I have to consider it? I was paid up with Game Pass Ultimate. I was like 2 years out, I think, and that's expiring in November. So now I'm trying to decide, am I going to re-up, which I'm probably going to do through, a site like, CD Keys or Neba or something, and probably re-up before that kicks in, because I don't want to spend $17 a month. I do use the rewards. The rewards go towards my game budget. So I'm one of those people that is logging in daily, and making sure that I'm picking up as many rewards as I can, because I do use that extra $10 to $15 I earn each month. And sometimes it's for stupid sales, like Mav said, for indie titles that go on sale, that kind of stuff. I'll use them. Sometimes I save up enough to pay for a whole game, right? That's what I do with my rewards. So that's all part of my budget, and that increases. But I think mostly what it's going to do is force me to spend more upfront as far as, a bigger sum of money to save money long term, by buying a new 12-month code, at least for a Game Pass Ultimate. So I make sure that my budget accounts for that, because I haven't had to pay for Game Pass Ultimate for the past 2 years, because I had one like 12 months, I think, through midweek mix-up. Shout out to Wandering Dutch way back in the day when I was just in the chat. I wasn't podcasting yet. I had 12 months through him. So I was paid up, so I haven't even consider it for a long time, and I think I want to stay that way. And like I said, with codes now, you can get an average of like $8-9 a month for Game Pass Ultimate if you buy through one of those sites, and that's ultimately what I'm going to wind up doing. Again, $2 is $2. I know everybody can say it. Like I said before, I will turn it back on you if that's what you come at me and say, why does Microsoft care about $2 per person per month, right? They don't need the $2 per month. That's where I'm at, Fuzzy.
Awesome. Yeah, I wind up using, and I think I DM'd you guys. It was like, as soon as the announcement, I had like 500,000 points saved up.
Jesus.
And I was like, all right, because I do the daily thing as well. And you get the points from some of the game purchases. So like when I bought Diablo, I got some points, and I bought Street Fighter, which dumb me. I haven't even touched it other than just the registration. But it definitely has been adding up, and I've been using that to kind of help with pay for the boys' Game Pass as well. So it's just been one of those things. Well, I got a bunch of points lined up, so let me go ahead and just put 2 years, get that out the way, because I don't feel like paying more. And it was going to do the renew in October, so it's like, let me just go ahead and do this now. I was trying to hold out for a family plan, but PTK,
Yes, sir.
with the price hike, any one, your thoughts on the matter, and then any changes to your gaming budget, or are you looking to use more rewards points or anything along those lines as far as changes?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very similar to Pong as far as being a budget gamer. Can't buy everything, want to, would love to, just don't have time. And to be honest, I just wouldn't play everything. Even if I had a literal bank account set aside just for video games, I still wouldn't buy everything, because I know I'm just not going to play everything. So it is what it is. But as far as just the practices and the costs, once again, I think we're all in agreement. We all share the same feeling about that. It sucks, being on the ass end, getting the short end of the stick when the companies are having record profits quarter after quarter. It does suck to hear that we get that passed along to us. I mean, that's not the only. I think it sucks because it's in something that we really enjoy. A lot of times we take costs and we just have to take them. Gas, we can't complain, we just have to pay it. Electricity, we can't complain, we just have to pay it. We don't get a say so in that other stuff. So it sucks when it's in, when it's in something like a video game where we feel like it's almost like a sacred garden, right? This is for us. We feel good about it as video game. So to see those prices go up, it does suck. We do understand it happens. It is business. We're not crude. We understand that this is going to happen. But the good thing is that we do have options on, from an Xbox standpoint. You have the points that is there, and it's always been there and available. It is one of the most underutilized parts of Xbox. If I'm ranking up front, people do not use those points at all. They don't log in. I get it, maybe a few points here and there, 10, 15, 20 a day, depending on how you use it.
Oh, it adds up.
It adds up. It adds up extremely fast. You buy a game here and there, even on a budget like myself. I don't buy games every month, right? But even still buying them here and there, if you got a little bit of discipline, those points can add up very quickly. Before you know it, you got 6 months, a year worth of Game Pass that you can get all kind of cool stuff, all kind of money off games. So there is some alleviation. If there was no relief valve on Xbox, I think I'd be a bit more upset about it. But there is another option. So I'm okay. It's not okay, but I'm okay. It's not going to change my spending habits all that much because I'm really picky on what I spend my money on or what games I buy. I've made the mistake of buying games and getting caught up in FOMO and not even touching the game after I bought it. So I try not to do that anymore. So for me personally, not much. I mean, I still want the family plan because most of us here have kids, a wife, other people that we have their own consoles and things like this that want to play video games and have the experience that we do. So I've been dying to hear about the family plan and see that up and going and finally get it out in the wild to everybody, make it available. So I once we get that, and I don't know how the cost is going to transfer to family plan. Maybe family plan went up from the original price that we thought it was going to be. Didn't we all set? Wasn't it like $25 is what we heard?
Yeah, that's around what the transfer rate was from, I guess, Netherlands or something like that.
Yeah, I can't remember. New Zealand or some shit like that. I can't remember what it was. But so maybe that went up a couple bucks. I mean, if it was at 25, I'm okay with 28. I mean, that's still under 30. Still makes sense for me, especially if you get the 5 accounts and we all get the cool shit that comes along with it. So for me, not that big of a deal, but I do understand people's frustration with it, especially if your budget's even tighter than mine is. You know what I mean? We all don't have disposable income, especially in this day and age anymore. A lot of people had it, don't have it anymore. So I get people's frustration, but for me, I'm pretty good.
Nice. Well, awesome. Greatly appreciate your guys' thoughts on it. Like, for the most part, anybody listening, if you haven't, heard or looked at Microsoft Rewards points, I strongly encourage you to look into it, just for the fact that, it even though it may seem like busy work, but a poll, a couple of questions, maybe a search on Bing, read a story on MSN or something like that. It adds up. And sometimes you're if you're already a Game Pass subscriber, sometimes playing certain games, whether it's just, kill one enemy or log in and, walk for 2 miles in that game, sometimes it adds up to rewards points as well. So I strongly encourage any of those looking into, other ways to save. Definitely look into that. And want to also, we got to push Microsoft, or not really push Microsoft, but put that word out that we want updates on this family plan, because that definitely needs to happen here soon. Or maybe they were saving it for the announcement after they closed the ABK deal. But in any event, greatly appreciate your guys' feedback. Tried not to take it
that's all good
long, but yeah, awesome thoughts, guys.
Awesome. And with that, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up the Shop podcast, man. Looks like we went a little bit long, but man, such a great panel, such great conversation. They had a lot of shit to get into, man. We had to get through it all, man. I will not cut anybody off here on the podcast, especially when we're having a good conversation. But before we get out of here, you guys know what to do. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel as well. I hope you enjoyed your experience here at the Shop podcast. Besides, you want to do this shit every single week, because we really do this every single week to come. be a part of what we do here at the Top Podcast. We enjoy you guys here. We do it for you guys. But let me go ahead and get my guests out of here. I don't want to hold you guys too longer. We're gonna start with you, Mr. Steel Rain. Shout out to you for coming out, hanging out with us, bro. Family once again. You know we're gonna be back on Diablo right after this any goddamn way.
Oh yeah, you already know.
But anyway, just for finality's sake and just to get through the show here, let everybody know where you can find they can find you, brother.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it was a great time to be here chopping it up with you guys. Excellent conversations to be had. Well, you can find me, Steel Rain. I Steel Rain. That T is a 7. Wherever you have a search bar, it's probably the easiest place. Other than that, it's the Xbox ecosystem, just because it just fits so well in tandem with everything, man. I'm just anywhere I'm at, I have some access to it. And shoot me a message. I tend to send messages back because I don't like when people ignore people. That's weird. But nonetheless, every Saturday morning we have a non-console centric platform known as Living Split Screen, the home of that RTS view, pulling ourselves out of the world, looking at the darker crevices of that map, pulling our resources together so we can build up that foundation to reach 3 billion gamers. We're on that road to 1K, so definitely help us out there if you can. Only if you're really digging it, though. I will say that. But PTK, I want to say again, Fuzzy, Pong, Mav, it's always a great time when I get to chop it up with you guys. You guys have definitely been and have become gaming brothers to me. And again, I love this industry so much, and it's always dope being around people who also care about the industry more so than they care about what their favorite piece of plastic is. So that's super dope to see. Much love, and I appreciate you having me on.
Awesome, Still. Shout out to you, bro. You guys know what to do, man. Go show Still some love. That Living Split Screen love. We need to get them to 1K. I got to make a mission here. I'm gonna treat it like the building fund at church. I'm gonna put up a sign, and every day I'm gonna use the little white erase marker and fill it in every time we get closer to 1K. But you guys know what to do, man. Go show Pong Still some love at Living Split Screen. They get our Saturday started the right way with all of that good gaming talk. And shout out to you, Pong, for coming through, putting up with Pong, putting up with us. Appreciate you, bro. Man, it's amazing to always have you here, and we're definitely getting our ass right on the game after this, bro. So I'll see you in about 20 minutes. But let's throw this over to Mav, man. Another brother of mine, man. We share so many things in common. Not only co-hosts as well, too, Mav. But shout out to you, bro. I love having you here, bro. One of my favorite people in general, man. Glad to always have you on, and you take a little time to hang out with us every Saturday. But let the people know where they can find you if they don't already know.
Yeah, appreciate you, bro. Again, Shop, one of my favorite podcasts to listen to, is one that I actually do listen to pretty much every single week, and you guys are killing it. I love to see the growth here as well. PTK, it's been absolutely awesome.
Thank you, sir.
To see here. Everybody, make sure you hit that like button for PTK and the Shop podcast, for Fuzzy, for Pong Soul, and for also, like Steele said, go check out Living Split Screen. I wasn't able to watch this morning. I was busy, but it's something that I always go back and make sure to kind of tune in and make sure you go hit that like button a little bit and share it out and stuff. So check out Living Split Screen as well. But if you do want to find what we got going on, it's called Fun Speculation on YouTube. You can also check out on Twitter, Fun Speculation. We got multiple podcasts. Xbox Ultimate on Friday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. PM in the PM on Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Time with Pong Soul and I. And then Mondays, FSP at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Also, you can find me in Sanctuary, usually about 20 steps behind Steel Rain and Jasper as they carry us through a tier 41, tier 42 dungeon.
Mav and I pull up the rear. That's what we do.
Yeah, we
strategy.
I sit back there
strategy.
and cast blizzards trying to freeze everybody to Jasper.
If you all die, though, who's going to tell the story? Who's going to tell the cool story, right, Pong? You need somebody to stay alive to tell the cool story.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I appreciate it, PTK, and chat's awesome. You guys rock, and hope you have a good night.
Awesome, man. Shout out to you, man. Once again, like I said, one of my favorite people, family here at the Shop Podcast. Go show FSP some love. Shout out to Caitlin, Jasper, Psycho, everybody over there. 3-bit at FSP, man. You guys are awesome. Like I said, family, man. Always love having you on here for sure. Thanks, let's go and throw this over to my right hand, man. The two gentlemen, grease the wheels, make me look good, make this thing work. I'm gonna start with you, Mr. Pong. Got through a lot of shit this week. More shit to come though. Next week, so that'll be fun. But man, let everybody know what you got cooking up, where they can find you, what you're playing, all that good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. What a show. Again, to have the family here, and all of you are family to me, and some of my best friends in real life too, is just extra special. On top of it already being my favorite place to be on Saturday nights, the way to end my week of podcasting. It's absolutely incredible, and we did have a lot to get into. There was so much more that we could have talked about. It's crazy what's going on right now. It's been Gamers Christmas on top of the ABK stuff, but man, it is the golden age of gaming out here, folks. You got to enjoy this while it's here. No matter what your level of interest is, gaming is the place to be right now. It's the best form of entertainment, in my opinion, and will continue to be going forward until the day they put me in the ground. So what a time. So thanks, Mav and Steele, of course, for being here, brothers. Awesome to talk to you yet again this week. Never gets old for me ever. So, and chat, you guys are absolutely incredible. Saw so many people in here, so much love. This community is still absolutely the best place, the most amazing community I've ever been a part of. So thank you all for joining us yet again for the Shop Podcast. Nothing but love and respect to each and every single one of you. You guys know the drill. You can find me Pong Soul on Xbox, Pong Soul on Twitter. Tomorrow you're going to get an extra show with me because I'm going to be over on Gamers Council. That's right, with none other than Web Dave and Retry Game Pass Daily, as you might know him. So I'm going to be joining those two guys at tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Central Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And along with me is going to be none other than Brooklyn's finest 108 Dragons. Lemon is going to be in the house. So you know it's going to be lively. It's going to be lively. It's going to be good. So join us over there on the Gamers Council. And then, of course, next week it starts all over again. I'm not on panel, but I'm still a part of the family over there. Xbox Factor podcast every Tuesday. All good things green. Double Barrel Gaming is the channel. Mr. Boomstick is the man. You got to be there every Tuesday, 12 p.m. Eastern, 11 o'clock Central Time. And then Thursday night, it's Fun Speculation. Listen, PM into PM, yeah, it's a fun time every Thursday night. So join us. We got a great community growing there. Mav and Caitlin have just been pushing that channel, and it is just blowing up. So join us Thursday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 o'clock Central Time, where we might have some more spicy ABK stuff going on because, man, Tuesday, Bobby Kotick, everybody's most hated man ever, along with none other than Satya. And you know, if the FTC already got destroyed by all the previous witnesses, they're going to try to come after Satya with some gotcha moments. Good luck. Good luck.
Bobby's going to be up there. His hair going to be on fire. He's fucking with his check.
That's what I said. That's what I said last night. I said, I was thinking about it. I was like, Bobby Kotick's probably the weakest link. And I'm like, no. He's got too much money on the line. This man ain't screwing up nothing. He's going to kill it. He was made for this moment. But yeah, I can't wait to see the silent assassin Satya up there with that smirk on his face as well as they try to question him. So we're going to have fun on PM and the PM on Thursday night. And then Friday nights, Xbox Ultimate, 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 o'clock Central Time. And then, of course, Saturday mornings, as PTK was helping push, and my brother from Another Steel Rain already did the hype. It's Living Split Screen every Saturday morning. Split Screen, all one word. 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 o'clock Central Time, 3+ hours. Buckle up. We went for about 4.5 today. We're going to have another great show next weekend. So bring a friend, tell a friend. Mission 1K in full effect. We're almost at 900. We are getting there, folks. So thank you all for the support in that. Otherwise, Golden Age is here, folks. Golden Age of Gaming is what this is all about. Get out there for the rest of the weekend. Enjoy your Saturday night, your Sunday morning. Play what you love what you play, and I'll talk to you all real soon.
Awesome. Shout out to you, Pong. The easiest way to keep up with Pong is go follow him on Twitter, man. That man is all over the place. But shout out to you, man. The Duracell battery here of the Shop Podcast, always bringing that energy every single week. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you so much. Mr. Fuzzy Belvedere, man. Let everybody know where they can find you, brother.
Just want to say it was awesome being on here. Always awesome when we have Steel and Mav on here. And always love doing the show with you, PTK and Pong. Man, just awesome time to be a gamer. Like Pong says, golden age. I know I got to send you the check. But yeah, this is like the best at moments of I guess our gaming lives. But for those who want to hear my endless rambles or rants on anything gaming, just follow me on Twitter at fuzzy_Belvedere. You can also find me on Xbox Lunch Break Special, on Double Barrel Gaming with Mr. Boomstick, Web Dave, and Crazy Louie at 12 noon on Monday. And then later that night, FSP at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Fun Speculations Network. And then right back here Saturday for the Shop Podcast at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Look forward to seeing you there.
And great having you on the show as well, too, man. Always bringing that energy every single week, man. And last but not least, your boy here, PTK Blam, the Shop Podcast host here, man. I appreciate you guys hanging out with us, man. So much growth on the channel as well, man. It's been crazy seeing all the growth over the last few years, man. Appreciate you guys so much. It's been amazing. But yeah, so hit me up on Xbox Live, PTK Blam. Hit me up here, Twitter as well, man. If you guys got ideas for the podcast or just guests, things like that. I take all of that information, man. But enjoy your week. Peace out, everybody. Be safe. It is the golden age of gaming. Go play something. Have a good one, everybody.
Later.
Mm-hmm.